Yeah, I bet I like to show consideration.
I think we should go over introductions first. Jimmy is our resident psycho on the show. I should say our lovable resident psycho, right? Is that correct? Because
Lovable.
Sometimes his ideas are batshit crazy, although you guys already met, but we're telling the audience.
According to Tom.
What's happening? Well, according to many, actually. I think even according to this gentleman next to me, who we'll introduce in a second. So we got Jimmy and we have Mitch here. Jimmy and Mitch are actually brothers. Jimmy actually is your assumed name, right? That's not your real name, right, Jimmy?
Correct.
I've been calling him Jimmy that for my whole life.
You've been calling him Jimmy?
I'm kidding.
That's another story. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. What we're doing is Jimmy comes with the hood and the glasses and the assumed name. We're not going to give Mitch his last name, not because Mitch doesn't want his last name revealed. He's not hiding anything. It's his brother that's hiding something. So, hence the reason why we're not going to reveal Mitch's last name. But it has nothing to do with because he's a fly-by-night prosecutor or a criminal defense attorney. It's because I'm honoring my buddy Jimmy here. Okay. Mitch, welcome. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you having me here because we get an opinion from the other side. Because you've been a former prosecutor, right?
True.
From Long Island?
Yes.
Back in what? You kicked the prosecuting off in 1980?
1997.
Oh, 1997.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, because Jimmy said 88, but I guess he's...
I became an attorney in 89.
No, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, I see. Okay. And then you became an ADA.
I was an ADA for 7 years, starting in 89.
That's what I was talking about.
Oh, I see. I got you. Okay.
Soon after I went out on my own.
What happens at the dinner table when you guys get together? I mean, because I know you seem like a very rational guy, and some of his ideas are batshit crazy. I mean, do you guys? How are you even brothers? That's really the question to ask.
I'll tell you what. Whatever we disagree with, whatever we agree with, is probably not as bad as you think.
Right. Okay.
But we also don't go at it as much as you guys do.
I don't know.
Well, you just said you did know.
No, I don't know. I'm saying
You just said.
You actually showed the tape to other ladies.
And she consents to it, and then at some point, for whatever reason, she says, no, I want to stop, and the guy keeps on going. Is that rape?
No.
That comments, those comments he made.
And they were just as mild-mannered as his wife Margie was?
They were surprised, but they know my brother,
Right.
so they laughed about it.
Right. So in other words, they were surprised, but they know your brother not to rape his wife.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Right.
Correct.
The interesting part is that I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, what are your thoughts on, because they never met you, what are your thoughts on Jimmy? I mean, all this crazy, because she saw the show with the rape. And she had an interesting theory. She seemed to think that you and your wife have an arrangement. In other words, you might rape her, but she goes along with the rape. Is this, and I said, well, I said, that's a really interesting... Wow. That's a really interesting theory. Bosch, you okay?
You gotta love it.
This is crazy. And listen, so Jimmy,
I'm thinking, did I get the wrong show?
Jimmy,
Don't get around to us.
We're on the wrong.
Jimmy, but here's the deal, though. This came from a woman's perspective,
That's fine.
right? Is it?
So now I think she's bad.
I don't think that's the case. But I wanted to sort of bring that out and
Oh,
get
listen, it's kind of
get
you
your
know
thoughts
what?
on it.
It's like
I only say that, by the way, because of the fact that she had a very, very mild. I thought her response when we went to the house and we taped the response watching the show, I thought it would be stronger.
no. This is what it is, and let me tell you my point of view real quick. The point of rape is my definition of rape. If you have consensual sex, and at some point during consensual sex, the woman says no. Do you have to stop at the moment of no, because that's rape. Anything after that moment of no becomes rape. Now I'm saying that if you get pulled into a back alley and beat the shit out of, that's rape, correct? So both of those line under the definition of rape. So I'm saying you're doing the same amount of time for rape because rape is rape. Right? So you're doing
You see
the
what
same
I'm talking about now? You're actually comprehending what he's saying?
No. But I'm saying both are considered rape. So I'm saying I don't think it's fair that you're doing the same amount of time for doing those similar or much different acts.
Stop
So
talking.
that's
Mitch,
what it is. Listen, that's my
Can you
opinion.
can you get him a bigger shovel?
Listen, I'm just saying that's what it is to me. I just don't see it.
There's a significant difference between consensual sex and a woman says no and beating the crap out of a woman and having sex with her.
But the definition is rape.
No, it's not. It's not all the same. There's different degrees of rape.
Okay,
Listen
I
to
didn't
me.
know that.
But listen.
I thought rape
But
is
hear
rape.
me out. Hear me out.
Do you have a brother that's an attorney?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think I understand your point.
But you can't, for me not knowing, okay, because during the show I asked, is there something other than rape that it could be called other than rape? Because to me, rape is brutalizing someone, right? That's how I see rape. So by saying no during sex, I don't see that as
All right,
being rape.
Jimmy,
that's my opinion.
let's stop. I noticed one
That's
thing.
it. That's where the whole thing
But
came from.
But if you don't stop, when you're saying that, if you don't stop at the point of saying no, what do you consider at the next level? Where do you stand at with that?
This is basically our warm-up, but it's not
Okay.
really much of a warm-up because
Okay.
I see this conflict already. Okay, so the one thing that I'll say is this.
No
The
pun intended. We're talking about rape and warm-up.
And warm-up, right. The one thing that I'll say is the moment you opened your mouth, you said something that was very telling. You said this is your definition of rape.
Right.
Right. So here's the deal. There is no your definition or my definition or his definition.
Right.
Well said.
There's one definition of rape.
The law.
But no,
But when you no, not the law, morally, ethically, every way, right?
No, because Mitch just said
you're gonna
there's
fight me
different.
on this?
No, Mitch just said there are different levels of rape. That's what he just said. So
No,
there
no,
is
Mitch
more than
is
one
saying- no,
definition
Mitch
of
is
rape.
I
saying-
thought we just put that shovel away.
Yeah,
right?
we just put the shovel
Mitch,
away. But listen, we're
can you
going to
tell
go
him to
back.
put the
We're going to
shovel
go
away?
back and forth for a long
'Cause they're
time. But
digging.
let's get
All
back
right,
to
so
let's
go
get back
back.
to the issue at hand.
Thank you.
Which is what I really want to talk about is wrongful convictions. So Bosch, you're from Albany.
Yes, sir.
And you are a radio
Personality,
radio
motivational
personality.
speaker.
And what's the label again? You said you were adversity.
Oh, overcoming adversity specialist.
Right. So what I would recommend is maybe you should get together with Jimmy because I see he's got a lot of adversities.
That he needs to overcome.
And he definitely needs a lot of things to overcome.
Okay.
So there's still some hope for him on some level.
I'm
Jimmy, what are your
glad.
thoughts when I say that?
Doesn't matter to me. I'll still just listen. That's how I see
Okay.
it.
And Selwyn, thank you for coming. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Having
So
me.
Selwyn had an interesting story. Selwyn, originally you are from
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon,
New York.
and you
Westchester
don't
County.
live in Mount Vernon now because you wanted to get as far away from Mount Vernon as possible.
That is so.
And we'll
That
get
is
to
so.
that story in a little while. And Mitch, like we said, is a prosecutor. Was a prosecutor,
defense
now a
attorney.
criminal defense attorney. So, Mitch, just out of curiosity, you've been
Prayer works.
on both sides of the aisle.
Correct.
Who do you think is more in tune with taking a more diligent approach towards creating justice, defense lawyers or prosecutors?
I don't necessarily believe it's the role of defense attorneys or prosecutors. I think the individual is who they are. If they want to go at it more diligently, because you get almost 80 to 90% of defense attorneys have come from the district attorney's office or the Legal Aid Society,
Right.
Right.
or something similar to that.
Right.
Okay, so you do both sides. Okay, most people do both sides.
Right.
Both sides.
Right.
And even though legal aid defends, that's a governmental job to go out on your own. If you're diligent, that's how you are. Just because you're a prosecutor doesn't mean you're diligent. Just because you're a defense attorney, it's happened with Selwyn. He could tell you what happened with that. Doesn't mean you're doing your job. Because you're a defense attorney doesn't mean you're diligent. And same with a prosecutor. If that's who you are, you go about your job, you do a diligent job, you do a good job.
I would imagine criminal defense attorneys make more money than prosecutors, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. So the money holds a big thing in this, right? Because if you're getting paid, and you're getting paid a shitload of money, and the prosecutor gets an X amount of money, does that make a difference financially?
Doesn't
Well,
money make a difference
it's a
to
bigger
everyone
payoff.
financially?
Well, I only ask that because, again, for me,
Do you think we go to become defense attorneys because there's more money there?
again, I don't know, but I'm just saying naturally, I think it's logically to assume that prosecutors become prosecutors so they can eventually go into criminal defense.
You learn there. It's a great place to learn. Legal Aid Society is a great place to learn about.
Right, but it also
criminal.
helps you build up a resume and a profile.
No, it does. But, you can look at it, you can make more money becoming a defense attorney or working for yourself. But one of the other things is I work for myself.
Right.
I don't have a boss.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
There were what, 150 prosecutors in the Nassau DA's office when I was there?
Right.
I think there's a
many.
lot of people.
Right.
And there's a lot of supervisors.
Right.
And people tell you what to do. Now,
Right.
I've had 3 jobs before I went on my own.
You mean before the prosecution?
Before I was a defense attorney.
Right.
You know,
Oh, okay.
I'm a prosecutor.
Oh, you mean between prosecutor and
Between, I
defense?
did insurance defense work. I worked for a solo practitioner
Sorry
for a
to hear
while.
that.
You know, do that. And it might be me. I prefer to think it's not. I'm probably not good with bosses.
You're not good
So
with bosses. I don't
whether
think
it's-
anybody's really good
Ditto.
with bosses.
Right. So
Everybody
whether
wants to be their own
whether
boss.
it's a prosecutor who's got to look, you know, report to a boss, I'm better on my own. So one reason to leave is maybe I don't agree with everything that goes on.
Right.
So,
I'm actually good with bosses as long as I'm the boss.
exactly.
I'm great with bosses. You know.
I want to discuss the Marty Tankleff case. Are you familiar with Marty
I am.
Tankleff? Okay. You know, this is a very celebrated case, Marty Tankleff, right? This actually came from the National Registry of Exonerations. So it was 17 years old. This happened back in 1988. So I'm sure both of you guys know the story, right? Do you know the story about Marty Tankleff?
He told me a little bit earlier.
So this poor kid, he woke up one day, found his mother and father. His mother was completely dead, stabbed to death, and his father, I think, was gasping for his last breath. They took him to the hospital, and he died shortly thereafter. I don't know how long. Just imagine you're 17 years old, and you wake up and find your parents, one dead, the other one, you know, steps away from being dead. And on top of that, at some point now, you're in the surreal condition of actually the cops are starting to think you did it. Automatically, according to this, they claimed that because there was blood on his hands, they suspected he was involved. Then they brought him in for interrogation, went on for hours. Do you agree that these interrogations should go on for hours and hours?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
How about a 17-year-old child?
I've seen it.
You've seen it. Should
I've
they
seen
be
it before.
recorded?
I believe they should absolutely
They
be
should be
recorded from
recorded.
front to end.
If there is a minor there, should there be somebody there accompanying the minor? His parents, somebody, an aunt, uncle?
Minor is, oh my, I'm see if I get this wrong.
well-
I think it's 16 and under, depending on the crime.
Well, in New
Or
York,
maybe
it's 18. isn't it?
18.
Right.
You can be charged as a minor. I'm sorry. You're supposed to have a parent notified
Right.
and called in.
Doesn't happen all the time.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I don't think they were calling his parents in, were they?
You know, I know you're making a joke,
No,
but the
man,
whole
it's just
point
making-
is that there should be,
There
if you're
should be a
underage kid,
lawyer or
right, Bush?
someone.
When you say yes and no, then what's the yes part of extended interrogation?
No. I meant that.
Because he said, do you think it should
I think it should be recorded.
record it? Oh,
All
okay.
the
I just
whole
wanted
thing.
clarification.
The whole thing, but
Okay.
I thought he was referring to, you know, going on for 6-7 hours at the time.
Right, and you, yeah.
You know, and I agree sometimes it takes that long. I mean, I've seen a lot of this. What I mean is the interrogation itself doesn't go on for 6 or 7 hours. The police will come in, usually the detectives will come in, and what they'll do is they'll speak to you. We'll be back. You need anything? We'll give you a couple minutes. 25 minutes can go by. They'll come back. We want to talk to you about this. They'll have a 10-minute, half an hour conversation. Okay. They'll speak to them, they'll leave them.
Right, I hear you. The point is, though, you're still keeping an individual in that room for 8 hours. Whether they leave or not, it doesn't make a difference. In
And-
other words, somebody is still
Correct.
incarcerated in that room for 8 hours or 9
And the
hours.
mistake for the person in the interrogation room at that time is that they've spoken to the police to begin with. They don't understand their right to remain silent and say, I don't want to talk to you, I want an attorney. At that point, either they're going to get arrested, which they'll be there for hours anyway,
Right.
or they're going to be let go because there's no evidence.
Right.
They can't hold them because their evidence is the statement, as we know.
This kid, he came and he told these guys, and he gave them a great lead. He goes, look, my father's partner, they own a bagel store together. He owed his dad $500,000. And, you know, you should talk to him. And not only that, but this partner threatened his parents with violence, and he was the last guy to leave at the house because I think his dad and a couple of friends had the poker game or something or whatever. They were all hanging out. So by default, shouldn't they take that lead right away and just go down that road and find out what's going on there?
They can do whatever they want to do.
No, well, you're not
No, no,
answering
no,
the
no, no.
question. In other words, it's a
Unfortunately.
yes or no. In other words,
No,
Unfortunately.
you can say yes, of course, what they
in
should
other words,
do.
I'm just talking logically. I'm not a
but
prosecutor.
what I'm saying is, obviously, this didn't happen
Or a cop.
in that case.
Right.
You know, you get any detective that would sit in here would tell you, obviously, follow on every lead.
Right.
And look, I can tell you this: I have great respect for the police. I know
Right.
my job is to cross-examine
And so
them.
do I.
But there are people, regardless what they do, detectives, any job. If you lie, you lie. If you take the easy way out, you take the easy way out. The job doesn't define you. You're going to define your job.
Right.
And that's who you are.
Right.
You know, and I know we have a story coming up at this table, which
Right.
is an exact example of what happened and leads not being followed.
And Mitch, listen, I'm not, again, I think we're all in agreement here, and Bosch has told me this as well, even with the situation. I think Selwyn agrees as well.
Yes.
We're all pro-cop. I'm not anti-cop.
Right.
And I never say fuck the cops. I have family that are cops. So let's get that out of the way.
No,
We're
I
not-
wasn't
we're not
trying to point
slam
at
the
anyone.
cops.
I'm not trying to say that at all, that we're trying to do that.
No, I know. I'm just stating that
But
for the record, that's all.
Bad police work is bad police work.
That's right. So
It's that
in this
simple.
case, agreed, bad? I mean, you know about the Marty Tanklet?
Yes, I
right?
do.
Okay.
And I actually...
Agreed that it's bad police work?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good.
I think everyone agrees it was bad police work. That's why it was
Well,
overturned.
I'm asking you because of your background.
I also know the attorney who went through the...
Spoda?
No, Bruce Barquette, who's the one who got him off.
Barquette, right,
Bruce is the one who got him off.
Right.
And Bruce is a great attorney, and you know,
Barquette was the one that gave him the exoneration? He
who got
released him?
who got him released.
Right.
And everything, but you know, the police work, I mean, the sloppiness, they didn't follow up on that, and it's basic police work. And prior, believe it or not, to all the scientific evidence we can use now,
Right.
you can get away with so much more. Back in 2001, what you can get away with. You know, like we'll see, or back in 1980s, what
Right.
you can get away with.
Right.
There's been many exonerated cases. There was a rape case in Nassau County. 3 guys raped a girl, I believe killed her afterwards. Okay?
That's a rape case.
Okay? I believe killed her afterwards in a van. They all, and by the
Notice
way,
Jimmy jumped out. He's very wanted to stipulate that is definitely a rape case.
That's a
all 3
rape
of them,
case.
But when a woman says no, that's not rape.
That's a rape
all
case.
3 of them got convicted. Years later, DNA comes back, says one, or I don't know if 2 were already thrown out, but it's not their DNA.
Right. At one point, the detective, I guess his name is James McCready, according to this, he went and he told Marty Tankliff that his father woke up from the hospital and said, my son killed me, or tried to kill me, right? Another falsehood. I'm just establishing what happened. Okay?
Police are allowed to lie to people.
Police are allowed to lie to people.
Absolutely. To get confession. They could say whatever they want to somebody, make a confession. Absolutely.
Do you hear how
Okay,
that sounds on his face, though?
No, I know, but you
No.
can say things.
No, I understand.
You
he's
can
just
do it.
he's just saying what
I'm
the
just
rules
responding.
are. I know. I understand what you're saying.
Perception outweighs
Rules
reality.
are, there
Right,
are
I
no
know,
rules.
I know.
Right, but here's the deal. And I get that. Okay, if that's the rule, that's the rule, and they're doing their job. I get that. When you put logic into it, and you have, in the case of Jeffrey Deskovic, and you have a 16-year-old child, and he hears that per se, and the police are lying to him, don't you think there's something fucked up about that, about lying to a 16-year-old child?
I believe if Marty woke up, his parents are dead, police come back in, say, your father told us, the situation psychologically that he's in at that time,
Right.
he would have said anything.
Marty would have said
Marty
anything.
would have said anything.
It's psychological brainwashing.
It is, and we've seen it. It's not the first time it's happened. It's happened repeatedly.
Right.
Point is, videotape everything, in which a lot of times they do.
Right.
Videotape the whole interrogation,
Right.
not just the part you want it to be heard from.
Right.
But thank God for the science of false interrogations, of false confessions that you've seen. You know, some people more susceptible. I can't imagine. For God's sake, I couldn't imagine being 17 years old, being in that situation. Anything the police said, I
Right.
would have agreed with.
Well, not long after, the partner who owed his dad $500,000 disappeared. He disappeared. He withdrew a shitload of money from a joint bank account, and he fled to California. He created a new name, an alias, shaved his beard. So again, right there, again, I'm not a prosecutor, I'm not a cop, but that doesn't sound. Does that sound right to you, Bosch? No. Okay. The fact that Tankliff had an unsigned confession. So the first question is, how does an unsigned confession? How is that a confession to begin with?
It
in
is a
court?
confession. It's accepted as confession. There are anything, okay?
If it's not signed, how do we trust the
It
cop
does-
to say? That's
it's up
just
to a
word of-
jury. It's up
word
to
of
a
the cop.
jury to trust them. You know, This happens all the time. You know, it starts with, believe it or not, it starts with the police reading them a rights card.
Right.
The Miranda warnings. Are you willing to tell the truth? And they read from a card.
Right.
And the person would normally write yes and sign it. Okay? And they would go forward then to speak to them about the case and then give a confession written.
Right.
Okay? Right. A lot of times people will sign the rights card, say yes, and then not give a statement, or people won't even sign it at all.
Right.
But then there are still comments made. There are a lot of times when the police will come out, and I'm not saying these are all made up, but you get, oh, he mentioned something on when we were taking him to the precinct. We weren't talking to him. He just said, how much time am I looking at for this? And you're just like, where did that come from? So when I get this information, I'm like, really?
Right.
Really?
So-
That's what my client said out of the blue.
Right.
And nobody asked him a question.
Right.
So, but that's allowed.
Should it be allowed?
It's admissible by law.
It's admissible by
It's
law.
the law.
It's
I mean,
admissible
that's
by
what it
law.
is.
Like
Okay,
rape is,
should-
like rape is the law.
Like rape.
Should it be
I
the
never
law?
said rape wasn't a law.
Should it be the law?
Should it be the law? My opinion, and might be because I'm used to it, but yes, it should be the law that it's admissible statements made from them.
Right.
We have to.
Just pushing just a bit so we get the.
If the
ring
police
going.
officer or the detective is lying about what happened, then he's lying. Okay? Under circumstances, I mean, that's what the law is. Any statement you made under circumstances that don't have to be gone into here, it's irrelevant,
Okay.
missions are admissible.
I want to go through the crazy shit that happened after that, right? So he gets 50 years, and then basically now they track down this guy by the name of Glenn Harris. He gave a sworn statement that he drove 2 hit guys there to the house.
I remember that.
So now they got a guy who says, I drove these guys to the house, and we were there to do a hit. He mentioned by names Joe Creedon and Peter Kent. Harris said he did this at the behest of his father's partner. So now you got a witness saying that this was a setup and we went there to kill him, right? In 2004, Suffolk County Judge Stephen Braslow declined to grant Harris immunity from prosecution. And as a result of that, I guess, technicality, right? They didn't want to put it in there.
Correct.
To admit his testimony.
Well,
Now,
he doesn't. His attorney doesn't want him testifying at that point because then he opens himself up.
right, but see, the thing that's baffling to me is he already admitted to it. So can he be prosecuted for that crime regardless?
I don't know.
He just admitted I was an accomplice to a crime.
Here's the thing. Any admission must be accompanied by physical evidence or some other kind of evidence, okay? I could admit to anything. I could admit to shooting somebody who's died somewhere. There's got to be proof of it. And that body alone is probably not going to be enough. There's going to be something more.
Yeah, but
Usually
is-
requires more. An admission alone from a defendant is not proof of a crime.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, but doesn't that though to require at least if this guy comes out and says, "Look, I drove 2 hit guys there,"
Why?
doesn't that at least require an investigation?
It requires an investigation, absolutely.
Right.
My question is, and you know, why did the judge not allow him to have immunity?
Right.
There's another issue in there.
Why
which
do you think? Why do you think he didn't allow?
You know, usually if I don't know where the information came from, so the prosecutor's office,
You mean this information?
this information where it
Well,
came
again,
from,
I got
meant
it
if it
from
came.
the National Registry of
Not
Exonerations.
that. Did it come from the defense side? Did it come from the prosecutor?
Oh, I see. I got
So
you.
my point is, did the prosecutor know about it? Did the prosecutor say, Judge, we have a witness that might be able to help the defendant? I don't know. Or did it come from the defense side, but they just said, I'm not giving him immunity to testify.
Right.
So I'm just wondering where it came from. That's all.
Well, witness number 2,
Good.
Carlene Kovacs. She came out and she said that Creedon, who I think was one of the hitmen, told her he was involved. Creedon said that he and another guy hid in the bushes behind the Tancliffe house to avoid being caught and had to get rid of their bloody clothes. All right, so this is a woman saying what the hitman actually told her. Again, when this second witness, it's baffling to me that you have all these witnesses coming out.
Well, that's inadmissible, no?
What's
That's
that?
hearsay, isn't it? Am I correct or not? Is that hearsay?
How far do we go hearsay? In other words, there's one person, now there's
I'm
another
saying the
person
woman,
coming
the
out.
woman. The woman is hearsay,
Is that
isn't
hearsay?
it?
Yes, it is.
Is that
Hearsay is
hearsay?
one. Hearsay is a person testifying
On
behalf of
to what
somebody else.
someone told them,
Yeah.
and you're accepting it as the truth.
Right, again, should be an investigation.
Definitely investigation.
Right.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Right,
Should be
okay.
investigation.
Okay, all right, good. Evidence also surfaced that McCready, the detective who obtained the alleged confession from Tancliffe, had come under investigation for perjury.
Go on.
The lead prosecutor in the case against Tankleff had a business relationship with the partner who took off for California, who supposedly. Okay, so all right, so Jimmy's laughing because he understands
Jimmy knows the ridiculousness of what you're saying. It's the truth.
Right.
But he knows ridiculous to even allow. Did it say what the prosecutor's name is?
Why is the name relevant? Would you say whoever the prosecutor
No,
was?
if the prosecutor knows somebody who's a possible witness in this case or a possible defendant, are you kidding me?
All I'm trying to illustrate is that it just seems like they framed this kid.
So whatever happened,
it was a gang of prosecutors, cops, whoever it was, and they got together and they said, let's put it.
We all know. There's no one here who's going to say there aren't bad police, bad prosecutors, bad anybody.
Right.
Okay? If the prosecutor took this and his friend is a possible witness, that's insane.
Right.
That's insane. I know it still goes on. I can't imagine that ever happening. I can't imagine what would happen to the prosecutor if that came up in front of a judge now.
Right.
What are we doing? And the case would have, I don't even know.
No, like you said, what happened in the 80s doesn't happen necessarily in 2018.
This stuff still happens.
No, I'm sure. I'm just saying because of evidence and the way evidence can be looked at. I mean, it's much harder. DNA,
you're looking at manufactured evidence as well. You're looking at arrest for judgment. All these things come into play. So that's what you have to look at.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People go up, the officers go up for the convictions that they get, as well as for the rest that they get. So this was evident. This was a problem. His father and his mother were more or less prominent people at the time. Business people or vice versa. So it's a high-profile case.
Which has to do a little bit with your case, which we'll get to in a second. But so this is the interesting thing. The defense at some point came out with 20 witnesses on behalf of their client.
20 character witnesses, more or less.
Well, it says defense assembled more than 20 witnesses to paint a picture that Stewerman, the guy who left town, orchestrated the murders.
Okay.
One piece of new evidence was a bloody imprint on a sheet in Arlene Tankleff's bedroom that appeared to be from a knife, right? Again, no matching knife was found, which again,
just told me about that.
Again, says that chances are Marty Tankleff.
No, we know it's bullshit.
We know Tankleff
We know it's bullshit.
No,
we know he was framed.
I understand
we know that.
But as a guy who is not that in tune, I'm slowly learning more about this world. It really scares me on some level after I heard Bosch's story and, Jesus, I mean, Selwyn's story.
Well, Selwyn is in the world of his own, man.
It scares me because, and the thing that exonerees always say is it can happen to anyone.
It could.
Right?
Agreed.
It can happen to me now because someone's going to watch this show and they goes, oh, fucking Nick Tom, he's fucking us over.
If you don't have an alibi, and I don't know Selwyn's story, so I don't know where, I don't know the first thing about your story, but if you don't have an alibi or place or 1,000 friends that were with you at the time of whatever happened, anything can happen to anybody. I mean, that's what I believe.
2 witnesses came forward to say that McCready had been seen together with Stewerman. So the detective was seen with the guy that supposedly killed him earlier.
What the fuck? I mean,
other evidence that McCready had violated police. So does that, in fact, that violates department rules, police department rules?
I think, look.
Because according to this, it says had violated police department rules by showing crime. Oh, I'm sorry. Had violated police department rules by showing crime scene photographs to unauthorized persons.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But what I mean is, this is an example of everything. But look how long it took to get this kid out and what it was based on.
Everything that could go wrong. This is just a case of everything that could possibly go wrong.
I believe the knife. This is the funny thing I was telling my brother about regarding the knife. If I remember. Now, this I believe I paid more attention to this when it was done, when he got out. Okay, and I believe he's an attorney today, by the way.
No,
Marty.
I don't think he's.
I thought he was hired.
I don't think he passed the bar.
I thought he passed.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I thought he passed, but
I think the media said he passed, and somebody else told me he didn't pass the bar.
Okay,
I don't know.
whatever.
But anyway, he's either an attorney or he's close to being an attorney.
I think the knife print, I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I think they had a print in blood. There was a knife print in blood. But the knife they had no blood on it. Now, how could the print be in blood, but there's no blood on the knife? I think that was it,
right?
Which is just
Creative police work.
Yeah.
Creative.
It was created by the lead detective, by the way. It's definitely created by the lead detective, and from what I'm gathering, the prosecutor.
Well, back when you
Creative
said
police
it
work.
took years to get this kid out, he was finally, I guess, after all these years, March 17, 2006, another petition for a new trial was denied. So this is the absurd part of it. I just ran down all this stuff after he got it, and in 2006, they denied him another trial. Now, you've been in the system. I'm not a prosecutor, I'm not a cop, I hardly know anything about the law, but from a guy who is, I guess, somewhat logical, right? Not as logical as Jimmy is, but it just seems to me that something is wrong within the system itself.
You can
Within the system itself. I'm not talking about individuals.
Hold on. So you're not talking. You're talking about.
And I'm not saying the whole system is rotted to the core.
Every system has rot in it.
Right.
So what you're talking about is the appellate courts. Okay.
Right.
The appellate courts have a set of rules they have to follow.
Right.
Okay. There's got to be a reason to overturn a case. There has to be a reason to do it.
Compelling.
Well, it actually.
All the stuff that I mentioned is
No,
not compelling
I'm not
enough?
saying
Right.
it doesn't. What I mean is, and first of all, if you're going to do something, you can bring it back to the original judge
Right.
to see if that. But you
Right.
got to follow everything up the chain. So
Right.
back original judge, then go to appellate courts. There's got to be reasons for it that appellate court is going to overturn a decision or send it back. Something have had to happen that's in the appellate court's jurisdiction to send back to the original court. Believe it or not, the most that happens now, the most reasons I believe things are overturned now is because of
Pressure?
No, selection of a jury.
Selection of a jury.
You screw up the selection of jury. I've seen more cases sent back recently just for selecting a jury.
You mean selecting the wrong jury?
I don't
Why?
even know how
Because
to explain it. I
because
didn't
they feel they were biased and they have to
No,
do it
not
over?
the jury. It's the rights of the defendant in the jury and the rights of the jurors themselves, how you pick them,
Right.
has become such an issue that
believe
it
that.
really
I believe
opens
that.
it up
I'm
so
tempted
much.
to jump to your
I
case
believe
now
that.
because this
I
poor
believe that.
bastard went through five. They tried him 5 different times. Had to face 10 different panels because of he was appealing as well. On December 18, 2007, the Appellate Division of the New York State Supreme Court in Brooklyn unanimously overturned the conviction, and I guess that was your buddy
Bruce Barkat.
Barkat, right? So, and he eventually was released December 2000.
So he did about what, 15, 20
Yeah,
years?
something
He
like
did a lot of time. And then eventually, in 2018, he settled for $10 million. But I think Selwyn, we had a discussion on this. No matter how much money you
There's
get,
not enough.
you can get 50, you get 100, you get $150 million.
Not
There's
enough.
never enough.
It's
never
never
enough
enough.
money.
You can never bring back time.
And so I'm learning more about this world, but from an outsider, I read this and it's boggling. It's boggling. And I'm curious, you're smiling, why?
Because this happens all the time.
It happens all the time. From a prosecutor's perspective, former prosecutor's perspective, why does it happen all the time?
Does it
It's
still
easy.
happen? Is it as prevalent
No, it
today
happens
as
all
it
the
was?
time.
I know. I'm just asking a question. Is it as prevalent today as it was in the 80s?
Yeah, I want to hear.
Okay, let's look at this easier. Drug deals. Simple, okay? Let's say it's nighttime, okay? You're in an area, okay? Let's say you're a officer who knows the people, you know people selling, okay? So let's say officer says, I see there's a drug deal going on there. How do you know it's a drug deal? I saw the hand-to-hand transaction. I saw what a glassine envelope with a baggie going back and money being exchanged. And all I'm thinking, I was a prosecutor at the time, all I'm thinking is, you're 100 yards away, it's nighttime. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't say that, because this guy's been around a much long time than me.
Right.
Yeah.
I go back to my bosses later, and I think this is crap.
So you can't because the cop, right? So now you're going against the cop.
Yeah,
You're not
I
going
wanna
against
hear
the
him
cop.
finish.
You're not going
Excuse
against
me.
the cop.
Yeah, I want to
Okay?
hear him finish it. No,
I'm not going against the cop because I'm not saying a word to him.
No, that's what I'm saying, though.
But we offer a plea. Who cares? This is a small drug deal anyway. But my point is I know there's no way you saw this. I know when people get pulled over, and People get pulled over. I won't go into my own personal thoughts on this.
Please do.
No, it has nothing to do with anything.
We'll talk in a roundabout way.
No, it has to do with family members.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It has to do with an issue.
We're talking
This
broad.
is law. This is
an issue.
law. He's just
Okay.
Guys, let him talk. Let him.
I am. I'm answering the
Okay,
question.
people get pulled over. You get pulled over. This is a freak one. We pulled him over because he had a brake light out. Okay, we went to the car. We saw there was, we saw in the seat there was heroin on the floor of the driver's seat, and this and this. When I look at this, just to begin with, I speak to my client. I'm like, what really happened?
Right.
I go, pulled you over for a brake light? Not a chance in the world. And that doesn't happen anymore. Okay.
Yeah, but Mitch, here's the deal. My initial question was, because I told you that I was boggled by what's going
Okay.
on, and you said it happens frequently, right?
I do.
Now, I just want to go
This
into
setup?
I want to
don't-
go into a little bit of the human aspects of this, and
Okay.
why I think it happened. Because as this world has opened up to me, and I met Bosch and Selwyn and others, I keep on asking the same question over and over again. How frequently does it happen? And you just said it happens frequently. So the thing
Well,
is
define frequently.
is a
What is your
systemic
definition?
problem 5% of the system, 20% of the system, 50% of the system? I don't know. I'm just asking questions.
Hold on. These cases mean nothing if there isn't real evidence found in the car. Okay? If the cop finds a joint in the car, maybe lets the person go. But when they find a gun in the car,
Right.
okay, and when they're, for instance, there's different.
Yeah, but we're not dealing with how prevalent it is in the system, though.
No, but what I'm
That's what
talking
I'm
about,
asking.
this is what I'm talking about. When you get cases like this,
Yeah.
when you get homicides,
Right.
okay, to reach this level,
Right.
okay, it usually takes more than one person now to do this.
So you're
what
saying there's many fuck-ups across the chain?
well, right now you're bringing in a lead prosecutor, you're bringing in the lead detective, you're
Right.
bringing in, there's other people in these cases. There's
Well, it
a
just
lot
seems
more.
to me, reading the case, it's a systemic framing.
But hold on, let's back up, okay? What happened
again,
to
I don't
Marty?
know, just from what I
Hold
read.
on. What
Yeah,
happened
but
to
this is
Marty?
1988.
What happened to
Doesn't
Marty?
matter.
What happened
I
to
think the
Selwyn
time
is
does
1,000,000%
matter.
wrong at every level, okay?
Right. And again, Mitch, I'm not
There's a
putting you on the
difference.
spot.
I don't
want you
feel
to
put on the spot.
We're
I don't
just asking
feel-
questions.
I don't feel put on the spot.
But I was curious to get it from a prosecutor, from a former prosecutor's perspective.
That's not what I mean. Okay, there's different extents to what people can lie about. When you pull a car over,
Right.
if you know that guy's a suspect in a murder,
Right.
and you're following him,
Right.
okay,
Right.
that bad brake light's coming out. He had a bad brake light because we want to see if we can find anything in that car. God
Right.
forbid we find a gun, and we can match the gun to the weapon that was used to kill him. Two different things. Then
Right.
it doesn't look terrible like we set him up for one reason, because we found the gun. But what happens when you set the person up completely? This is a complete falsehood, is what you're talking about.
Right.
Okay, so there's different levels of what you're
I
talking
understand
about.
what you're saying. Let me ask
Okay?
you, let me frame
So
the
you're
question.
talking about, if you're talking about this level, this
Yeah.
is insane. And
Right. This is
Let's,
crazy.
I have
Same
a
thing with
narrative here,
Selwyn.
but
That's
let me
insane.
ask
Well,
you.
let's hear Selwyn's
No,
story.
hold on, because I want to go. Selwyn, go ahead. You have
I
something.
don't think. I think what Mitch is trying to say is that you really can't actually put a stat or put a number on how prevalent this happens.
Right.
Because some of this stuff is never reported, and within the criminal system, when these people are being convicted and they're being exonerated at certain points, what happens is that, like Mitch said, there's levels. There's times when it comes into where they make deals with you.
Right.
So the deals aren't being reported. So these
Right.
people take these deals.
Right.
So in the course of them taking these deals, you would never hear that 5 out of 10 took the deal and the other 5 didn't.
Right.
You
Well,
know
we
what I'm
have a
saying?
big
So
problem with
you would
plea
never
deals
really
in
know the
general,
stats.
which I want to get to. We have a big issue with plea deals as well, so I want to get to that down the line in a second.
But can I just go back to-
Let me
Like
I want
Mitch
to
said,
continue with the thread with
Mitch did say there's a lot, but you can't put a
number
frame,
on it.
you can't put a number on it.
Okay.
It's a lot. It's only being raised out because the families have argued within the system for these to become prevalent and be known to society.
Right.
But it's there.
Right. Well, I don't think it's a lot. I don't think it's a lot because I don't want, and at least I want to believe there isn't a lot, right? Because I want to believe in the justice system that we have here. Because if it's a lot, that just doesn't make me feel good about the justice system in general.
Okay,
Right?
I believe in the
Let me
justice
just ask-
system.
I do too.
And I believe it works. But every system I don't care what it is, has situations, we come across something so egregious as this, no matter what the situation is.
Right, but let's not trivialize. We're talking about this system. I understand every system has
But
it.
what
But
I
there is
mean
no perfect system, right? I mean,
No,
we all
there is
agree
not. I
There is no
agree.
perfect system.
We all agree there
I
is
just
no
wanted to
perfect
try to
system.
get a question in, but
Oh, let
no, thanks.
Bosh, I know you had a
Bosh, you
question.
have
I'm
something to
sorry.
say? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, you
Yeah.
get really defensive sometimes. Don't
No,
you?
no, I'm fine.
He was kidding. He was kidding.
I'm going to get my ass kicked. Why don't you sit over there just in case? I don't want to anger Bosh.
I don't say nothing for an hour, and as soon as I open my mouth, I'm defensive. Going back to the car stop, I've been stopped 8 times, and 8 times there was nothing.
Why do you think you were stopped?
Oh, you know why I was
know
stopped,
why.
and I know why I was stopped.
I know why.
And I can give you a garden variety of excuses. One was you were going a little too slow. And forget, they don't even use the tail light now. Now they say, all right, you were swerving. That's the excuse. That's the narrative they use. So now, my last stop, he stopped me, and I was 3 blocks from my house. He followed me because it was in the middle of the night. I was coming from getting off the highway, and I'm driving slow. He's following me. I'm like, now I know he's going to stop me. So he pulls me over. So now I said, why did you stop me? There's nothing wrong with my light. I wasn't swerving. Well, you were driving really slow. Now, this is what I don't like, Mitch. All right, you get stopped, license, registration's fine. I get stopped, where you going? What are you doing? Where you working at? Why do I gotta go? Excuse me. Why do I gotta go through all that? You get stopped, license, registration. All right, where do you live at? Now, where do you work at? What do you do? It's almost like an on-spot interrogation. Now, this time, I was just fed up with it. I says, why are you asking me all of these questions? There's nothing wrong. Here's my license and my registration. You know what he does? He goes back to the car. Now, this is really digging deep. He comes back and he says, I'm writing you up. I'm like, for what? You got a GPS in your window. In New York State, listen to this, guys. It's illegal. This is a law where you got to really dig deep, all right, to have a GPS in your windshield. Now, think about it. If this cop was stopped, yes.
First of all,
I know the radar
Can I
is
finish?
illegal.
No.
the only thing I'm guessing, and I believe him, is that you can't have anything blocking your windshield.
Exactly,
Well, that's what it
exactly,
is. The GPS
exactly.
can't have any
Anything.
blocking. Right.
So
There's
now,
an obstruction in your
so
window.
think about
That's
it.
obstruction of-
Everyone has a GPS.
Exactly, that's my point. So if you're going to enforce that, there wouldn't be any cars on the road. Am I right or wrong, Mitch?
I agree.
Everybody would be stopping. But because he was so pissed, he says,
you
I'm going
spoke
to
your
dig.
mind.
Huh?
'Cause you spoke up to him.
Exactly,
That's
and
why.
challenged
Right,
him,
so-
and I'm a person of color.
Right.
You know, I should have just been grateful that you're not writing me up for anything.
Hey, can I ask
Bosh
you a
is-
question?
well,
Bosh,
just
I
let
just
me
want to
jump-
ask him a
hold on,
question.
one second.
Let me just ask him
Go
one
ahead.
question because I don't know. Just curious, because I'm just curious because of
Sure.
the conversation. Do you live in a
Albany.
black community or is it a white community?
Albany is white,
I'm
isn't
just asking because I don't know, so I'm curious. The community you
Guys,
live in.
That's
No.
I'm Do you hear how
But
that
I'm
sounds on
sa-
his
No,
face?
no. Here's
But
the deal.
my point being- my
Jimmy,
point being-
I know what's going to happen
My
here
point
because
being
you know what? You
is
got
the
some
cop
back.
pulling you over.
No, let me
because
tell you.
he sees a black man in a white community. That's
I
why
live
I'm
in a
asking you.
diverse community, and let me go further with this.
Not that it makes right
I
or
know,
right,
Let
you
me go
understand what
further
I'm
with this
saying.
stop. So I did give him some pushback. So eventually, the other cops came, and it was this Hispanic cop that came to follow up, and that's when I said, I live right down the street. I contribute to you guys, the Police Benevolent Association. Everybody knows who I am. This little rookie got pissed, all right, and he dug deep in the book just to write me up. Shame on him. Come to find out, this kid hadn't been on the force but 8 months, but he wanted to show his big bad badge and that he was in control. But do you know how many times that happens? Now, like you said, sometimes.
Well, Bosh,
they get
that's
something-
what he's trying to get to. He doesn't understand how many times it happens, and that's what
I know.
That's what I was going to bring up.
I'm not saying
Real quick,
that.
Let me just bring something out. real
But that's the
quick.
world we
That's
live
not
in.
what I'm
I know,
you know?
but we got into race, and I didn't
That's
want.
what I'm
I didn't
saying.
want to
I'm
get
saying-
into.
but it is race.
I know. I understand that, but I'm just saying we got into race. And I don't know if I wanted to get into race right away because I want to go through his whole case and Selwyn's case, and they got some big-ass cases. So I want
I just had to say something because I was not.
I want to veer off a little bit, and I just wanted to add that when you opened up your mouth, I saw Mitch's face. You started kind of like, oh shit, what is he going to say? I kind of got the sense of what is my brother going to say now?
His question.
But here's the deal.
Is the cop a racist? Is what I'm asking.
I understand that, but you got Bush's reaction. In other words, what your question
Bosch,
is.
not Bush.
I'm sorry, Bosch. Forgive me, Bosch.
George.
I'm getting very intimidated.
Dementia.
Yeah, I'm getting very. You're really
Bosch,
aggressive.
let me ask you a question. Do you think the cop was a racist?
I think the cop was insensitive to the neighborhood that he's policing.
But wait a minute, you just went through the whole story, and I got the sense that you think he's a racist. Is he a racist or not?
I never said that. No,
he never did. That's why I'm asking.
I said,
but you implied you know why he's pulling people over, right? So in other words, the way it seemed to me was you're kind of at least implying that black skin has something to do with it.
Well, we can fill in the blanks, but I'm going to take the high road. I think the cop was insensitive, and he was not familiar with the community in which he's policing.
Do you think if you were white,
and if he would have had some sensitivity training, maybe he would know how to address that situation better.
Bosch, if you were
white, race fall into it at all?
Well,
if you were white, would you have gotten pulled over?
No, without a doubt.
That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. That's what I'm asking.
So now you're painting a racist picture.
That's what I'm asking.
Without a doubt. But
that's what I want to know.
But what I'm saying is, all right, I'm not going to take and go back to him and say he's a racist for not. All right, because, all right, no, I wouldn't have got pulled over because he probably would have looked at that differently. He looked at me in a different prism. And if anything, maybe if he had more sensitivity. Okay. For example, all right.
When you say sensitivity, what is that?
I shouldn't have had to go through all of those questions. All right. Where you coming from?
Right, but
where
you work at? If you were white, you wouldn't have been pulled over.
Do you think? Let me ask you a question. Do you think, Bosch? Do you think that when he pulled you over and started questioning, was he looking about inside your vehicle?
Of course he was.
I think he was looking for something as well, so he continued with those questions.
But this
as an offset to what he was actually.
But as I went on, and because I got a little pull in my neighborhood. He was young. He was insensitive. He lived on the outskirts. He was 8 months on the force. And then the lieutenant came and said, listen, man, you need to calm down the way you're approaching folks. You just can't go out there like that.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
Are you okay, though, or you want to?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When I had a club, I had a poker club up in Queens by Main Street, but the club, where my club was, there was hookers. They used to walk down the street.
That's something we all agree on, right?
No. But hear me out. Listen. Which kind of is not relevant to you, but it kind of leads into what you were saying.
I'm listening. I'm
so there was hookers. No. So there's hookers walking up and down the street, right? But that's what my club was. That was the area I decided to get into.
I'm dying to hear what you have to say.
No. Listen to me. Because it would be less conspicuous.
But see, just the mere fact of what you said, because there's hookers, what does that matter?
I'm going
it's almost
into
like,
it's not
like
with you.
Me,
it's not with you.
Let me go back to my point. I'll let you speak, but I want to enter. Like, where I'm coming from, what I'm doing, what does that have to do? Did I do anything wrong, officer? Did you find anything wrong in my car?
Why
Nothing.
pull them off?
Why pull them over in the give me this litany of questions?
No. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay,
I'm agreeing with you. So I come out of the club, right, and I'm not by my club anymore. I'm driving back around and I'm coming back down.
I'm
coming back down Northern Boulevard. I'm not coming out of my club. So I come down Northern and I make a left on the Main Street, right, which is nowhere now.
Tell a story.
But what happened was the cop pulled me over. No. The cop pulled me over.
Right.
He pulled me over and he asked me the same questions that you were asked. The exact same question. What are you doing around here? Why are you here? It was like 2 in the morning.
What's your point, though? You're trying to rationalize?
No. I'm not rationalizing. I'm just saying they asked me the same question because now it's probably not the area.
I know, but what's the point?
The point is that cops ask questions. That's it. Cops
Okay,
ask
all right.
questions.
Let's just end it at
That's all.
the
They ask
Can I say
questions.
No, let me just. I
Can I
want to
say
add
one
one
small
thing.
thing?
Just
Jimmy, I don't know where that
I
was.
know it's not going to say, but I'm saying they
I'll
they
tell,
ask.
no, let me tell you what's going on, okay? Because I know Jimmy a little better. Jimmy is one of these guys who thinks, and you mentioned this on past shows, so I'm going to
Go.
just say right out. Jimmy is one of these guys that claims, listen, guys, let's stop with the racism and the slavery and all that. Slavery happened years ago. That was a long time ago. Stop your bitching that blacks are disproportionately
Well, I'm not
targeted
even
and all
gonna
that
touch
stuff.
that then, 'cause I totally disagree.
So
All right.
I know you
I'm
do.
not even gonna
I
touch
know you
that.
do.
All right.
So the
So let's
thing
just
is
stay on
that
task.
I
That's
needed
a
to
whole
get that
nother-
out
yeah.
because this is
All right.
where the perspective he comes from.
Well, then,
and
I'm
I'm
just
only
saying that I
it
was
because
asked
you-
questions
That's a sad
too.
perspective.
But I got.
They
let me
asked
say
me
something. I got.
questions.
It's not the same
Let me say.
I'm
I
not
got
saying it's
pulled
the
about a
same.
week
I'm
ago.
just saying I was asked. Man,
Right.
don't get on me. I was
no,
asked
no, no, no,
questions.
no, no one's getting, no one's getting on you.
I was
I'm
asked
just-
questions.
I'm
The
just saying-
cops sometimes listen. I was pulled over on Bell with Paulie, who's a cop, and Rob, who was an ex-cop.
No, I
and they
understand
pulled us
that.
over and asked all of us, "What are we doing?
I
Why
understand
are we
that, but
around
Hold on,
here?"
hold on. If I ask you this, so take yours. If same things happen to me in Queens,
Okay.
I got pulled over for no reason whatsoever. However, now switch this to one thing. You're a black person being pulled over now. How much worse is it because you're black that you got pulled over than being white?
But that's what I'm saying.
Well,
so no,
they
listen
just
to me.
say that.
saying.
No,
Just
no,
what
no.
I'm
Listen,
saying.
listen to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is my color is my color. So am I supposed to blame that every time a cop pulls somebody over
All right.
and asks what
You're
because
missing
is
the point.
it
Yes,
because
you are.
There's a
You are really
disconnect here.
sadly
And it's
missing
on-
the
it's
point.
on to a
Then I'm
racial
missing
thing.
Yes.
You missed
In other
it.
words,
But
at
that's-
what
but
point-
that's okay. All right,
Can I
listen.
say
No, no,
one
no.
thing?
At what
No,
point isn't it
this is
racial?
great
Isn't it
because
racial?
once
At
again
what
it
point
brings
isn't
out how
it
batshit
racial?
crazy his ideas
No,
are.
at what point isn't it racial? I'm asking you. Tell me the point it's not racial.
I don't know,
When
I
they
got
stop pulling us over,
I
it's
got
not
pulled
racial,
over
Jimmy.
with two
When they
cops
let
in
me
the car.
drive
Can I
through a
say one thing?
neighborhood at night
got pulled
and I
over
don't
with
do
two cops in the
anything
car.
wrong, all right, and they let me pass through,
I got you.
that's when it's
I
not
got
racial,
you.
sir.
I
But
got
let me
you. I
say-
got
let
you.
me- let me-
But they did it with. I had two cops in the car.
Stop. This
And
is
it happened.
irrelevant anymore.
All right,
There's
all right,
a
so
difference.
it's okay. Well,
Let me say one
So
thing.
when you've woken
Please.
up, right?
Right, I'm up.
Okay.
Let me say one thing. Just approximately about 5 days ago, okay, I was driving a brand new 2017 or I believe it's 17 or 15.
Regardless, if you're in the-
CRV. Okay, CRV.
I love you anyway.
And I love you too. And guess what? It ain't nothing you can do.
All right, listen. Do me a favor. Let someone tell this story. And then you guys do the love fest after the show.
The windows all tinted out. Okay, me and my friend was actually left the house from Mount Vernon into the Bronx, went to the store, purchased some food items for the morning. We coming down Boston Post Road. Okay, we made a left turn. Right, I had an ice cream in my hand behind the wheel. They pulled us over, the cops. Right, they approached the car. First thing I said to them, I'm rolling down the window. I'm moving my hands. Please don't shoot. Okay? One cop was on the left-hand side, other cop was on the right-hand side. They were young cops. Both of them was white. Okay? As the window went down, they asked me, I said, what's the problem? Okay? They literally said that you made a turn, you made 2 turns without using signal lights. I said, no, it's impossible, okay? The ice cream is sitting in the dashboard. The lady friend I was with said, Selwyn, did you use signal lights? Of course I did. I didn't get into a beef with them. He asked me for my driver's license. I showed not only my driver's, I showed him my permit as well. Okay, he said, oh, you had 2 forms of license there, you know? So he asked me to turn the signal lights on. I turned the signal lights on both left and right. His partner said, let him go. Okay.
All right, and
but
I just-
in the course of him asking me, he asked me where, he also asked me as well, what are you doing out here this time of night? Okay,
Yeah.
where you going? I said, in my town, everything's closed. So we came to the Bronx to buy some breakfast items in the for the morning. And he said, okay. But
So
at
let
the
me
same
just say
token,
something.
at the same
Here's the
token,
thing.
he's looking at the car, okay? But you're talking about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, and that's the time it
Okay.
happened to me. It was early in the
So-
morning.
So, Bosh, do you want to add something to what Sullivan said?
Real quick, yeah, and we'll put this to bed. And when you say when does it stop being racial, Jimmy, is when we don't have to go through that protocol when we get stopped. I have to tell my 16-year-old, all right, All right, there's a protocol we have to go through when we get stopped. Hands on the dash. Don't move. All right, always have your wallet near you so when he comes, your wallet's up there. Because God forbid if you pull for your wallet and it's black, here's the narrative. I thought I saw a gun. Game over. He wins. So when it stops, when that narrative stops, where we have to go through all these hoops and rings, and Mitch, I think you would agree, that's when it stops becoming racial. When it's fair. All right?
Okay,
let's
I
put it to
gotcha.
bed. All right?
I got you.
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
No, listen, dude. Tom, listen. What I'm saying is, you don't know.
No,
what's in a
Jimmy, I think you should
person's
stop
heart.
saying.
You
Let's
don't
just
know
let's
what's
stop
in a
saying because
man's
you're going
heart.
to
You
every time
you don't
you
know
talk.
that every time someone gets pulled
But I
over,
understand
that it's
that,
because
but
it's race.
These are two
That's
different
all
points
I'm
of view.
saying.
Yeah.
That's
However,
all I'm saying.
How much respect were you treated with when you got pulled over by that cop?
Little
Okay.
or nothing.
Little.
All right.
Okay.
I got treated with
There,
respect.
there's a difference. He
I got
just
treated
told
with respect.
different. How they treat you.
And I got treated with respect.
And I've been pulled over and haven't been. Same situation, different. I'm starting to go into it. I was like 18 years old, and they followed us into the house, into the apartment buildings. Okay, cop car.
All right, but we got to go.
Big
Listen.
time. Yeah, now we got to go.
I'm just saying because we got to get into this story.
My hands were in my lap. The cop said, "Put your hands on the dashboard." In front of my house, they pulled us over. Put your hands on the dashboard. And I'm just like, and I'm looking at her, basically my age, and I'm like, are you kidding me? What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell did we do that you have to follow us in here
I
in the
agree.
daytime?
It happened to
That's
me
a
on
lack of
Bell.
respect, except for one thing. He gets it a lot more than I would.
I'm asking your opinion based on what you've seen. How much does racism play a role in prosecutions? Again, based on what you've seen. Don't give me facts. I'm not asking for facts. You haven't seen any of it?
No. Back that up to the arrest. Don't back it up to the prosecution. Prosecutor gets the arrest. You can't. I'm
You're
sorry.
at the water cooler. Guys are talking.
No,
In other words, you
I
can
don't.
get it.
I don't agree.
See, Bosch gets
It's not what I mean. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I've never seen a case when
I'm
I
not
was a
even talking
prosecutor.
about trying people. I'm talking
about as a prosecutor.
I'm talking about when you're at the water cooler and you're talking among your colleagues and they're using the N-word or this
No,
and that.
no.
You don't hear that.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We're not stupid enough to use that if somebody was going to use that word. It's ridiculous. You have no idea. I told you. You
But
work
friends go out for beers.
Hold on. I'm backing this up a long time ago.
And I'm not saying that you're
Tommy,
wrong.
let
I'm
me
just
finish. Just let me do what I'm
asking
saying.
every question.
I know it's used.
Yeah.
I know that word's used. But when you're talking about a situation around with people and you work in an office and it's a government office,
Right.
I can tell you right now, I cannot recall a single time anyone used the N-word to describe anything in that case, and I think it would be professional suicide
Right.
to do that.
That's
and I don't know that. I mean, what are you out of your mind
That's
to say that?
interesting. Why would
I can't.
you feel word's going to get around?
I don't. The only time I hear that used at all is if it would happen in a case and you have to use that word during trial, and it happened in my last trial.
Right.
And the statement was why my client was carrying a weapon. Okay, and the comment was, and I'll say it, and I'm just going to say it because as attorneys we say it, it goes, and it was for self-protection regarding other people. He said, because those niggas are crazy. And that's the way it came up. Other than that,
How dare you use that word?
my point is,
That's true.
I don't really hear that word too much anymore. I just don't.
You don't hear it.
I don't hear it come. But for his prosecutors using it, no.
Right.
I'm just telling you,
Let me
I
ask you
don't
another
remember
question.
that ever
So
happening.
you being in that world as a prosecutor, I get the sense that we have a lot of cases like, well, Selwyn is just a case on his own, but exonerees and wrongful convictions in general. I get the sense that sometimes people might see wrongdoing within the DA's office, among prosecutors, whoever's in there. However, though, they are afraid, because we went through this as well, right?
Correct.
They are afraid to speak out because essentially they're speaking out against the system. They know it's wrong. They know it's wrong, but they just clam up because they feel they're going to be ostracized by their colleagues.
Never, when I was a prosecutor, if I felt that something was wrong or this person didn't do it, I don't care what color. I could care less what color they were. I never saw the color thing when I was there.
Right.
Okay?
No, but I'm saying fear for forget about the color,
if
no
I
race.
I would tell my...
Just fear for speaking up because somebody's becoming wrongfully prosecuted.
No.
No,
I'm
you
sorry.
never saw that.
No,
Okay.
I would speak up if I thought that this person didn't do it.
You would, yes, no doubt about it.
No, I think the
but-
other people might say, tell me, look, I don't think it would become, I don't know if this guy did this. I don't care what color. I don't care if it was a woman or a male. I don't care about anything.
And again, I'm not taking away the wonderful people that work in the prosecutor's
I don't remember going to trial.
Ask Selwyn what he thinks.
Well, we're going to get to his case. I only asked this because in Philadelphia, where you live now,
No, right.
I believe his name is Larry Krasner, recently got voted the new DA of Philadelphia.
That might be why his name
Okay,
sounds
and he
familiar.
ran on like most DAs, right? Don't most DAs run on? I'm gonna sweep out, get the corruption out of the system, right?
Right.
And then when they, for the most part, from what I've seen, from what I've read, when they go in, they don't do anything. They turn their backs. All right. So in this case, why?
Well, everyone has their own agenda and how they're going to do things. and
Right, so
they
you're
might
saying
clean
it's
up
human-
certain things, and
human
certain things
nature.
might get worse. It's
Right.
just, you know.
In the case of Philadelphia, he literally fired 31 prosecutors because he felt like they would not be able to adhere to a just system.
Well, in Suffolk.
What happened? 31 prosecutors?
No, they
saying
just
it's
got
just
rid
so-
of.
they're
They
so
just got rid of a
in-depth
whole
in their
bunch of
corruption.
prosecutors.
Right.
Cinny is a DA on Suffolk. Just got rid of a bunch of people.
What about
because
Brooklyn when he, God rest his soul, he passed away?
Right.
He took
Oh,
over.
yeah.
Or what's his name?
Yeah,
Who passed away? The
the black DA.
Ken Thompson. He cleaned
Yeah, I
house.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as
and then
well.
he
And he
passed
should've-
away, but
Yeah,
then what they
right.
did
Right.
was...
Come on, that's
Do they
a whole
still
nother
have the
story.
integrity unit in Brooklyn? I'm not
Yes, they
sure.
do.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They still.
So I believe that the majority of the justice system is good. I just think that there's some bad seeds in there.
And there
there's
always
going to be
gonna be.
bad seeds in everywhere. I get
Okay,
it.
let's put it this way. Prosecutor in Suffolk County who is withholding exculpatory evidence from defense attorneys. Not giving them that. There's proof that your client might have done it. Wasn't turning it over. Trials just got thrown out. Offers had to be murder charges became burglary with 5 years.
Let me go one better.
For this stuff.
Prosecutor in St. Lawrence County, prosecuting several cases, high profile murder cases. Come to find out somebody did a background check on them. They never graduated from law school. I'll one up you.
But
All right, let's play poke,
But a
Now,
lot of
that's not
prosecutors
misconduct.
hold
What is?
exculpatory
They
evidence.
should-
Many.
Well,
Many
let's
prosecutors
go
hold
into
back.
this. The one thing that I read, that when you go to prosecutor school, the one thing that they hammer in you
Prosecutor
is,
school?
right? Yeah, well, that's for lack of a
Like
better word.
defensive driving school.
Right? So when you go to prosecutor school, you get your road test to, become a prosecutor, right? The one thing they tell you is that you're not there to bulk up your prosecutorial resume. You're there to convict the guilty.
No,
They don't tell you that.
no chance.
They don't tell you that.
No chance.
That's not one thing that they hammer in you.
No chance.
So no chance meaning what?
Where
What's
they
the
tell
answer?
us you're to find these people guilty. That's
Right.
not what our job
Right.
is.
Right.
I'm
Well, that's
sorry.
not. Well, that's
That's-
not.
they're
That's
in the
contrary
business.
to what
No,
I
it's not
read.
in prosecutor
hold on,
school.
Hold on.
That's
Where'd you read it?
prosecutor.
Where'd you read that?
It's the Barbizon prosecutor school. That's what
Let me explain.
They're in the business of locking people up. That's what they do.
Hold on.
you know what? I will
I don't
send
agree.
you. Well, we'll put it up on the show when I get the article. We'll put it up. I'll highlight it.
article from
Doesn't
where,
mean
though?
it's right.
I don't know. It was probably from the Mickey Mouse newspaper.
Exactly.
But anyway.
Listen, hold on. I just want to back up.
No,
I know
but see, to me though, it is logical that when you do go to prosecutor school, and again, I know it's funny, but when you go to when you go.
It's like a yellow bus pulls up and brings you to
That's right,
prosecutor.
exactly. There you go.
Really,
Pack your lunch.
you're right.
As a prosecutor, take me through, because I would imagine that prosecutors, they are told they should be very diligent, right? Do they tell them that? Is that? Are you? No, there's no. So take me through the process, so I understand, because I'm an outsider. You're an insider.
Different prosecuting offices
So-
do different things. But
So
hold
how do
on.
you become an ADA?
You apply for the job. You
That's
graduate
it.
law school and
Okay.
you apply for the
When
job.
you're in law
Well,
school,
not in St. Lawrence County.
No, yeah, apparently. Apparently.
Okay.
Weston's County.
There's an
you're in
exception.
when you're in law school, do they not tell you? Is there not a code of conduct that they go over
There's a
when you
rule.
become a prosecutor?
No. Hold on. Whatever you learn in law school is completely irrelevant to what you practice afterwards.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the best thing I heard all day.
It's
Right.
irrelevant.
Totally different
They teach in
worlds,
my
right.
school what they should teach is just how to pass the bar
pass the
exam
bar.
and move in.
Granted, when you get
The
into the
real
DA's
world,
office, is
like
there not a
apples
code of
and
conduct
oranges.
they go over?
There is a prosecutorial across the board code of conduct that you have
Right.
to go through.
Right.
And one of them is turning over any material that is exculpatory to the other side, called the Brady obligation.
Right.
Okay, the Brady rule in New York, you know what that is. And what happens is that they never told us this is your job. Yet your job is to convict people. Your job is to do this. That's not what they tell you. You have a caseload. They don't really go into much. They throw you in. You're going to learn from someone. This is what we do. These are the general offers on these cases.
Trial by
and how
fire,
they handle it.
basically.
It's my 6th day. I did a trial, my first trial, my 6th day in the DA's office.
you right every day.
That was awesome. I also didn't realize that it was a loser, and the guy who said, I want to try this case.
Right, you didn't even cut your teeth, and they're throwing
But
you
that
out.
was great. That was great. It's what you learn. But no one's telling me this, that, or that. And you know your job there. You know what it is.
Yeah, they would never say
Follow
that, Tom.
our certain rules are. Don't jump outside our guidelines to what our general offers are unless there is exceptions, and you come to the supervisors with those exceptions. That's how it works.
Are there fuck-ups within the system where the friend, one friend says, hey, you know, get my back here, I fucked up?
Yes.
There are.
Of course.
Right.
That's a fact.
All right,
Yeah.
so that's a convicted,
now-
very convicted yes that came out of
No,
your
of
mouth.
course. It
So at
happens
that point, you
everywhere.
learn to be corrupt.
And on some
At that
level, it
point,
happened. I mean, Jimmy mentioned
learn to
it.
be
You
corrupt.
wrote a letter on behalf of when he was getting in trouble back in the day.
Yeah.
I did.
Right.
But let me tell you, the screw-ups,
Did that letter help?
We don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
Well, we'll
yeah,
never
but-
know.
well,
You'll
well,
never
time out.
know.
I did throw in $1,000 into the letter to the judge. Put it in the envelope.
Good point.
You never know. The
Well,
judge
yeah,
gets it.
well,
You don't know
yeah,
what
no,
his
but
thoughts
can we
are.
assume that we know because you did go to a minimum security prison?
nothing
Right,
to do
but
with
that was nothing
That
because
had
it was a
nothing to do with
federal.
crime.
It was a federal
went there.
offense.
If
It
he was
wasn't a
black,
state
would he have
like
gone
it.
to a?
You can't
I
go by
believe,
that.
I believe it's the crime. Federal.
It's the
I don't do
crime.
federal work.
Okay.
It's the crime. It's
Oh, look,
not.
I'm
It's
just
not
asking.
that.
I'm
No, no,
asking
no.
questions, man. That's all.
The
I'm asking questions.
prosecutorial screw-up would have been to the benefit of the defendant,
Right.
and I needed a guy to hold my back
If
in
it's
case my
found.
bosses.
If
right,
it's
if it's found,
found.
and something happened that I did that was wrong, was never like to make the defendant's position worse. Because then what am I screwing up, right? It would have been that I screwed something up to his benefit that I might have been in trouble for.
Right.
That's where that comes in.
All right, one more thing, then I want to get into you. As you go through your story, I'm going to interrupt you, okay? I'm just like
know
giving you,
that.
giving you a heads up, okay?
We don't have that much time, you know.
calm down,
so
relax. Just-
I'm
we're
fine,
gonna
but
work it out.
you know, it's like
It's all good. Don't take up time saying we don't have that much time. Okay, so former U.S. attorney and former prosecutor for Cook County, a guy by the name of Robert Milan, stated, quote unquote, taking false confessions which end up in wrongful convictions or misidentifications which end up in wrongful convictions is a huge problem in his country. It is something for every one of us to be worried about. You agree with that?
Yes,
You do.
absolutely.
Why?
You're the reason why.
But there's also lawsuits behind it.
No,
That's
a
another
million
problem as
percent.
well.
I didn't think about the money
That's right.
aspect,
There's
but
a-
you're absolutely.
It actually cracks the system.
It does.
Right.
You can't afford it.
Right.
Right.
You can't afford it. When the county gets
This is-
sued, when
right.
a cop
This is the problem.
when a cop knowingly does something wrong and puts you in jail, and they find out he withheld evidence or the prosecutor withheld evidence, which is not as easy as showing because
Right.
there's an immunity built into a prosecutor
Exactly.
unless they acted in bad faith. But
how about that?
One last question. State and state judges are elected. Why not federal judges? Shouldn't they be? You think they should be elected as well?
Instead of appointed, they're appointed now?
Yeah. You don't want to get into that.
no, because there's a whole wide open story about that. As for instance, look, I respect every judge I work with. I like them personally.
Right.
I understand they get elected.
Right.
But you just don't run. It's not like I decide I'm running for judge. I got to get the party's endorsement to run. Do you understand how that works?
I understand
And
that,
that's
but
So that
the
doesn't-
party's
attorney,
endorsement means
Tommy,
nothing.
it's a whole
It's a whole
nother
other. It's a
mechanism.
whole other
Another
mechanism.
I know, but when
So
you
that
say
means you have to
it's a
kiss a lot
boys
of
club,
brass
and
rings.
No,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
exactly.
I'm saying,
That's
I'm
exactly
saying that
it.
sometimes you can correlate being appointed in federal court to being nominated by a party in the state court.
Right.
Right.
We have internal affairs for the police department. We have all these oversight committees on everywhere.
They have them for
Should-
judges.
Should there be internal affairs for prosecutors?
They do have the.
That's a yes or no answer, Mitch.
They have this stuff already. They have it in place.
They have an internal
ethics
affairs
committees.
for
Ethics committees.
Ethics, but that's like a
No, no,
That's
but
not,
no, no, no.
that's
but
not
you
an
can-
isolated.
Hold it. Hold it. If a client writes a letter to the ethics board, do you know the hoops I have to jump through? Because the client
That's
wrote
an
a letter,
interesting
even if I've
take.
done nothing wrong. So a friend of mine deposits money in her bank account.
Right.
The bank mistakenly puts it in her escrow account.
Right.
No, vice versa. It was supposed to go in the escrow. They put it in the regular account because attorneys have both accounts. The bank's error. Guess what? It got reported to the ethics committee. 6 months investigation, and the bank admitted they made the mistake. Who needs that?
I understand that, but he didn't have an ethics committee.
That's not what I'm telling you. You asked me a question about should attorneys have internal affairs. I
Right.
said there's ethics committees.
Right, but in his case, the ethics committee didn't work.
Because at the end, the ethics.
In his case, the ethics committee didn't work.
the punishment is minor.
Right.
You know, you're not going to be.
What you get recommended? What you get
Reprimanded.
It didn't happen to me. I didn't get a letter of
It's like a slap on the hand, Mitch. It's a joke.
It goes into your file.
Yeah, it's a joke. But
And they send you a
Jimmy
letter
Savile
saying.
now,
They
you're
send you a
on the hot
letter.
seat.
But if there was an internal
They send you a
Go
letter.
ahead, guys.
They
Blow it
send-
over.
They send you a letter saying
Get the
that
DA.
that you've been cleared, and they sent us a letter saying that, oh, we investigated and we find no merits to what you're saying.
I think if
That's
the
what you get.
I think if my personal belief.
I sent
if
many.
it-
I
no,
mean,
no,
per-
no.
I sent many
I've
to
seen
the
it.
committee.
I believe if they've hidden evidence, okay,
Right.
or there's some other conflict of interest, prosecutor knows a suspect, disbarment. It's not even close. And after
Exactly.
that, I agree.
Or subject to be sitting in that same cell that they were trying to put you in.
Yeah, but
that is
I've never,
How likely does that happen, though? We rarely see
I say
disbarments.
I say disbarment, but I haven't even seen anything come close to putting that
But I
person in
agree
jail.
with you.
I know that.
I do that,
And
but
Sullivan
disbarment
has
almost
got
never
to
happens.
Yeah.
Even
No,
that level.
Bosch is
But
right,
that's what I
because
believe.
if that was held over your head, where if you got disbarred and put away, things would be much different,
getting put
because
away.
you're doing hard time
You're never
then.
getting put away.
So there, huh?
Never getting put away.
I know
Exactly.
you're not. I'm
But
just
look-
saying.
look
but
at the
if,
flip
if you
side.
were,
But your
I agree.
career
If you
is
The
were,
lives, the
Right.
families that you
Your career,
destroy,
exactly.
and
Right.
you go on and say,
It
oh,
should
well,
be.
better luck
It
next
should
time,
be.
or we'll catch you next time.
That's what they usually
Because we
say.
have two different contrasting stories.
Selwyn
I'm going
had
to defer to him. Yeah.
Selwyn had a little bit of a success in disbarring his
Prior
legal aid
my
attorney who
Excellent.
really
Good
fought.
for him.
We'll get to that in a second. So sometimes there are cases where justice prevails,
Good.
particularly in the case of Selwyn. Okay, so Bosch, your house burned down, and eventually they said you burned the house down.
Correct.
That's the short version of your story. You said it was a 2-month process until you got. How long was the process?
The house,
So the house
caught
burned
fire
down.
April 29th, and I
Right.
actually was arrested June 9th.
You filed an appeal. You filed a claim with the insurance.
Yes, I did.
Shortly thereafter.
Yep, filed
Right.
it. Yep, and they went through my life with a fine-tooth comb. I gave them everything they asked for. There was no smoking guns.
Right.
All right.
Which at some point you told me you got very cynical. You're like, why the fuck are they coming up to me and they're asking me all these questions?
Right,
I know
because I felt that I went from victim to defendant.
You have to prove, basically, it's not arson to collect the money in the civil case. In a criminal case, they have to prove it was arson. So they're
And
going
I
to
was
ask all
getting
these
hit. I was
questions
on
in the
war on
world.
both fronts.
So, and by the way, they do work together.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Wait till
So-
you hear my case.
Right. So the point being is, from a civil point of view,
Right.
he's got to prove it wasn't an arson.
Granted. Okay. And
He's
by
got
the
to
way,
prove
this
it
is
wasn't an arson, or he didn't commit the crime.
Well, either
because
he
he
didn't
was up
commit it
for
or
his
was.
own-
If they think it was intentional, and that's the whole thing, it's who proves it. So an arson is, it's an intentional fire, and who did it. That's a criminal aspect of the arson case, okay? But from the civil case, the aspect is he's got to prove it wasn't an arson, and if it's his home, then they're going to ask him what happened, because it's a money
and that's a
But
situation.
here's the deal, though. His case goes past the insurance.
No, I
claim,
wanna hear it.
And he was facing 35 years.
35, how
35 years.
Because I got charged with arson, insurance fraud, and depraved indifference to human life.
Who was supposed to be in the house at the time?
There's no law for that.
I was in the house, but if you if
They're
if
talking
you
about neighbors or
no,
something?
No, let
How's
me.
he-
All right, I'll go right to that. A fireman leaves the firehouse. You see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
Goes down the pole, all right, tears his ACL, but he still goes to, gets on the
Serious?
truck, he still makes it to my house, the fire, never goes into my building, but he tears his ACL. They charged me with depraved
That's not-
indifference.
that's not depraved indifference.
Exactly, and that's why the
That's
judge,
not even close.
and that's why the
No,
judge
sir.
says, gentlemen,
That's
Really?
That's insane.
The prosecution, you said, was banking on a plea, and that's all
Yeah.
this thing was hinging on.
Exactly.
Was on a plea.
And that wipes out the civil
They asked
case.
him to come down to the police department, and you said,
the only responsibility I share was, and in the spirit of cooperation, Mitch, because I didn't want to give them anything to default on the payment.
Go on.
I get a call from a police detective. He says, hey, Mr. Bosch, how are you? I just want to close this case up, wrap it up before I go on vacation. I know. All right, and then submit it to the insurance. Everything's fine. So I call my family, call my friends. Should I go down there? Well, we don't want to give them any reason. And by now, they've been through my life with a fine-tooth comb. They didn't find anything. So I'm saying, you're right. What do I have to hide? That's my mistake. Do not go to the police station without an attorney. I don't care what they tell you.
Always.
All right? Listen to me. Especially
Got a
when
brother.
they say, Mitch, criminal investigation.
I know
All
all
right.
this.
You know, because when you go to the police station without an attorney, when you come out, chances are you're not going to be the same if you come out at all, and especially people of color.
So he got called in, and again, a long-ass interrogation.
9 hours.
That was the time they called you to come
They didn't
down.
break
Yeah.
him, though. He
You
wasn't a
you can
16-year-old
leave. You
kid.
can left. That's what you don't know. You could have left
You're right.
anytime you
I was
wanted
going,
to.
Mitch, I kicked,
Yeah,
excuse
no
me,
idea.
I'm going to curse. I kicked my ass once a week.
no.
Jesus.
All I
Could've
had to
left.
do was say, I'm out of here.
The
So
Lord is
again,
listening. You-
No,
yeah,
it's all right.
well, the
The
Lord
Lord
is
can
really,
listen.
bless me, that's why I'm
The
here.
Lord is
all right?
pissed also.
All right? So I
Lord
should
is
have got
pissed
up
off.
then, but once again, in the spirit, because they played a head games.
Yep.
You know, I went down there, one was like, we just want to wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, let me get this done, because I'm looking to move on with my life. Plus, Mitch, I've gone through 7 different depositions
Right.
and nothing. They didn't find anything. So I'm like, well, what do I have to hide? Mitch, if you would have went down there, what would you have said if you were with me? Gentlemen, is there any charges?
I would have called him on the phone and said he's not coming down.
That's what my attorney said. Yes, he's not coming.
He's
no
not
need
coming.
to come down there. Well, then give us a report. He
No,
ain't showing
no.
up.
We don't
There's
have
no
to do
need-
anything, and they know that.
Exactly.
And most
I
police
didn't know that.
officers have no problem with me telling them he's not speaking to you.
Yeah, of
None.
course not.
Most
Yes.
Of course
Some,
not.
the ones who get upset
It
have
doesn't
no
matter.
idea what they're doing.
I lost a $500,000 business being gullible in the spirit of cooperation. And here's something else as a prosecutor. They had already developed a narrative before I went down there. They knew what they were going to do.
I agree.
They knew what they were going to do.
The insurance investigator had evidence and took it in his car.
They came back a month after, almost 6 weeks, to investigate the fire, all right? Series of investigators, state insurance, because they were really trying to hang my hide. They gathered evidence, one of the investigators, put it in his car, went home for the weekend, had a
Bad
cookout.
move. Bad move.
You know what I mean? Now, they allege that Emma, the fire dog, came back after 6 weeks, Mitch.
Emma the fire
Emma, the
dog.
fire
No,
dog.
it's-
Right.
it's
right.
true.
I know
It's
that.
true.
I
Yeah,
know.
true. They said Emma allegedly found 5 hits of an accelerant. Gentlemen, I know more about accelerants than the law allows, all right?
Go
You
ahead.
can strike a match and I can tell you which way it's going to burn. The
Go
burn
on.
pattern, the V.
Where's the fire?
All right? In the back, on the back porch, all right?
Outside on the back porch?
Outside.
Go ahead.
Outside, right.
Go ahead.
So they said Emma found 5 burn hits of an accelerant.
6 weeks after?
Yeah, 6 weeks after. I know.
Go ahead.
So this is what my lawyer says. Okay, Emma is trained to smell what? An accelerant. What does a car run off? Gasoline. What is gasoline? An
accelerant.
accelerant.
Go on.
So does Emma cut off her nose from the car to the scene? Yes or no?
Well, I actually would defend you in a bunch of ways.
Uh-huh.
Besides the fact, if it's outdoors, you know, people can store gasoline in the back, or was it specifically gasoline, or one of many accelerants? Because you can't tell. Dogs
Barbecue.
are trained.
Yeah.
Dogs. I used to
Exactly.
do arson cases.
Uh-huh.
Dogs are trained for accelerants.
Right, right. And not only that, Mitch, do you know if you did arson cases, do you know in the Northeast, every porch, all right, the houses in the Northeast were built with pine. Pine has a natural accelerant in it.
I did not know that.
Bosch was really smart because you went and you found a guy who was an educator.
Yeah, my sister, she called where all the arson investigators get trained. I don't know if you went. All right, in New York State, if you want to be an arson 1 or 2 investigator,
True.
you all go to the Finger Lakes, right? And that's where you get trained.
I was an arson 1 arson.
All right,
No.
did you go to the Finger
One.
Lakes and get trained?
No. It's
No? Arson
I
1
never
and
made
2.
it to the second level.
Okay, 2,
I
they
was
all
at-
go to, you're right.
Okay,
As a
let him fin-
prosecutor.
let him finish.
So
I
my
left before I
sister
did it.
called, and God
You didn't know
bless
I did
her,
it.
she was able to get the guy who teaches these guys on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally they say, look, this is a police matter, I don't want to get involved. She explained the case, the guy says, they're trying to frame your brother. He says, I'm going to tell you, I can't come down and testify, but I'll tell you the questions for your lawyer to ask. These are what you need to start asking. For that guy to be stand-up, Mitch, to speak truth to power, because he trains all of these guys, right? But when my sister got him on the phone and said, this is what's going on, he said, bull crap. All right, and every day we systematically went through their case like a hot knife to
Right.
butter. The state's own leading forensic expert said, I found no evidence supporting I started my fire. But I would have never knew that, Mitch, if I didn't go to trial.
You were looking at 35 years.
Yes,
What
yes.
did they have you on to put you away for
Well,
35
see, because they
years?
throw
Or what
those
they
football-
thought they had you on.
they throw these football numbers at you because once again
They were
all right,
looking for a plea.
And people of color usually don't have the resources to fight that. They knew it was going to be expensive, so they throw these football numbers at you and really scare you.
That's
you
what
know
they do, man.
Exactly. But
And it
when I
works.
started to fight, that's when they started going back on their heels because they never had anything, Mitch.
What was the end result of your case?
I was acquitted.
You went to trial.
Yes, I went to trial.
Good man.
for you.
4 weeks, brother. 4 weeks.
Didn't take a plea deal.
Didn't take a
So you
plea.
gotta
And
quit.
let me tell you something. Hold on.
If you would have
I
pleaded,
knew-
what were
I
they
knew
trying to plead you out
Well,
on?
this is what it is. I knew they didn't have anything. Not only did I go to trial, we're going to tell you the backdrop with the attorney. Remember that? The guy we're going to
I
have come
remember
down.
that's what I'm getting to.
All
You
right.
shut up. Go ahead.
All right. They said they had a slam dunk in my case. But right before trial, I went through 2 prosecutors and 3 district attorneys. Eventually, they said either try this man or let him go. Right before trial, they says, Mr. Bosch, would you be willing to take 2 1/3 to 5?
Nah,
Now remember,
there you
Mitch,
go.
2
they had a
No,
they had a
it's not.
slam dunk.
Go ahead,
They
forget
had a
the time.
slam dunk, and everybody said in layman's terms, I would have got 18 months. I would have been home in 12. I told the judge, with all due respect, I'm not taking 2.5 hours.
Right.
Let's go.
The fascinating part about the story is that when he went and he did a civil suit, guess who called him to represent him? The prosecutor who tried to grill him.
What?
And then he thought it over, and he took him on.
Did he
and
ever tell you
and
the
now
truth?
he's using the prosecutor who tried to grill him as a criminal defense attorney.
That's funny shit.
The first thing that came into my mind, and maybe it came into your mind, is did this guy, his prosecutor that tried to grill him, that eventually became his defense attorney,
Civil attorney.
Yes, civil.
Civil
his
attorney.
civil attorney, right? I'm sorry, that's right, his civil attorney. He might have still been working for the insurance companies.
But he was
And he
working as
took-
a prosecutor, not for the insurance companies.
I know that, but
No, but
I
he
got the
left and he
sense that-
became a civil attorney. He since then left the prosecutor's office and he went to work for this high-powered.
Was that ever a thought in your mind?
Yes and no, but I also looked at the big pictures. Just for me to go back and get a second bite at the apple with the insurance company was a big plus because they were doing everything they could to get out from under it.
He wanted to shut the case down.
I don't agree with how you're looking at this.
Yeah.
Didn't you say to me that he was looking to end this thing as quickly as possible?
Well, yeah, because he said we got this kind of money, and he says, I got to admit, it's going to get expensive, even if we do win this motion.
Right.
Because he was looking at we can only get the face of the policy. Because I said, look, I want at least $300,000.
The conclusion of your story is that the value of your house on the health insurance policy was for $500,000.
Yeah, insurance policy. Yeah.
And you walked away with peanuts, which you got what? You got 100 and something, 100.
Yeah, 120, and then after they get their 33%,
120,
yeah,
got nothing.
right.
Peanuts,
Right,
yeah,
and
pennies on the
eventually
dollar.
he kind of got like 60 grand in his pocket. So basically, he wasn't wrongfully convicted; he was wrongfully prosecuted.
Without a doubt.
But
with
it
all-
still changed the trajectory of my life.
No, I understand. I'm not taking that away
No.
from you. But when you sort of go back to back with you and Selwyn,
Yeah.
it's a whole different
Yeah,
story.
Selwyn's a world of his own, man.
But we both on 2 different extremes of a system that it wronged us, that we did not
Without
get
a
justice.
doubt.
There's
Yeah,
no
so-
way I can compare to Mr. Selman.
So Selwyn, the thing that I remember with Selwyn is every time as he was telling me his story, I kept on going, wow. Wow.
It is a
because
wow.
it's a wow on every level.
Yeah.
You're a record breaker, right? How do you feel about being
What was the record?
I mean kids want to grow up and break records, but not this kind of record, right?
Not this kind.
So in New
Not
York
this kind.
State, nobody has ever been tried for the same crime 5 times. Is that the
Wow.
record?
I have the record in my county.
You had the record in your
Yes, I
county,
do.
right? Back in '96, there was the murder, right?
Yes.
Who was killed? Some wealthy dude, right?
A multi-millionaire as well as his nurse.
From '96, it took him till 2001 till you got indicted.
No, from the murders occurred in '96. I didn't get arrested until 2001.
A long amount of time has passed.
Correct.
And by then, you were long gone. You were out of town
I was actually living in North Carolina since '91.
in North Carolina. So keep
Since
in mind,
91.
Since '91.
he's getting indicted for a crime
That wasn't in the state of New York.
He wasn't even in the state of New York, right?
How is that possible?
Well, that's what I keep on asking. There's some circumstances involved, right?
It was a multiple stabbing.
So your mom used to work for the wealthy guy that got stabbed, right?
She was his nurse.
Right. So by default, and any prosecutor would somehow think maybe there's some guilt there because
My mother was actually sexually molested by the gentleman that she worked for.
right.
Her caretaker. She sued him for sexual molestation 6 months after she received her settlement. He was actually murdered along with his new nurse.
Right.
So they came after me based upon an accusation I was made by my ex-girlfriend at the time, where she told the police that you need to look into my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, because he could have killed 2 people.
Only dated this girl for a month and a half.
Right, correct.
I think it's very important to
Yes.
state.
And she'd filed a charge against him.
And
Yes.
she was the one that said he might be
She
your
opened
man.
up the Pandora's box
There was a
with it.
violation of probation. She said you violated
Yes.
and had the police brought in.
Which I never knew that there was a
Right. I
violation
don't even think I knew that. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically
I
though,
read
so now looking at it from the way the prosecution would look at it, right? I think it's rational to think that, by default, if it happened, if any of our mothers were sexually assaulted, we'd want to go down there and maybe not murder, but at least dole out some
Stab
punishment.
them a few times.
Yes, that's
Definitely an investigation based on that.
But there was no
Evidence.
evidence. There was no pursuit of me at the time. Accusations were made that brought me into the system
From your ex.
from my ex.
Okay.
Based upon the argument that we had.
And your interrogation was 7.5
My
hours.
interrogation was 7.5 hours
Right,
long.
which again is an insane amount of
Which
time.
only 35 to 45 minutes was actually recorded, which resulted in a false confession at the time.
You said something interesting during the interrogation, almost like you're being hypnotized.
Yes, yes. During the interrogation, I was put in like a state of hypnosis, verbally, as if I was here, but I wasn't here, and I was being told about what happened through the detective that investigated the case. I was actually the crime investigators to the crime itself. Back then in '96, these officers were still in the force at the time, and these are the same officers that interrogated me. So in the course of interrogating me, they put me under the influence or the guise of making me assume to believe that, to raise the possibility that I could have committed this crime.
They paid your girlfriend, right?
They paid my girlfriend $5,000
Right.
and gave her a house in Sumter, South Carolina.
They
which
gave
she
her a house?
They gave a house in Sumter, South Carolina, which actually she came from a housing project in Mount Vernon.
Real quick, Mitch, that's unlawful, right? You're not supposed to pay witnesses.
I mean, you could pay a confidential informant to make a drug buy for you, $20,
Right. No, I
but that has
understand
nothing to
that,
do with their testimony later on.
pay somebody to do a
in my
testimony.
case,
I've
in my
no.
case, it did help out. It did help me in
your appeal.
in my appeals,
When-
because it was actually recorded into the third trial that she made a statement. She was having an argument with the district attorney because the district attorney wanted to bring her up from South Carolina, and she was actually tired of actually testifying against me, because the statements that she was making was in each trial that she was coming was her statements was inaccurate.
It was inaccurate.
Inconsistent.
Inconsistent, right.
When did you learn that she was being paid for her testimony?
In the third trial.
The third
trial,
that's insane. That's
she made
Brady
a
material.
statement.
That's the kind of
Right.
stuff that's
That's why
got to be
Brady
turned over in the
material.
first one.
That's why it's-
Well, how did
That's
it keep
ridiculous.
going on to the
Insanity.
5th trial after that happened on the 3rd
Oh,
trial?
She was found in
God.
contempt. She was actually found in contempt.
She was
of court. Right.
Well,
I can't believe that.
the other interesting part about this case is they refused to submit DNA.
Yes.
They what?
They refused to submit
They had
DNA.
They had
Why would
DNA
they?
on the scene. My case is similar to Jeffrey Descovec. Okay. My DNA was submitted into the database, the CODA system, as well as the SDIS system, as well as DOC. There was perimeters within my case where the district attorney stated that we could not go into the DOC database because there's a guideline with inmates or people that's incarcerated that it's a, what I was trying to say, Mitch, it's a...
Hold on a second. Hold on. My understanding.
You can't...
I might be going back
You
too
can't
far to
access,
remember
you
this. Hold
can't
on.
access the database because there's...
You just can't access the database and compare it. However,
right, because there's...
if they
it's
have
like
DNA,
a HIPAA law. It's like a HIPAA law in
if you
between.
consented to
Right.
give your DNA to
Which I
them,
did. In which
I don't
I
see the
did.
issue.
But
Well, in other
The
words,
capacity-
prosecutorial misconduct.
I don't need. Right now, I can't even begin to say what happened. I'm just.
Well, there's
was
a
a
whole bunch of
relentless
other stuff that
pursuit.
happened.
They wanted
I'm
you.
astounded.
I mean,
I'm astounded
Astounded.
right now.
was it the
because-
same prosecutor throughout your all 5 cases?
My
Was the
actual
same prosecutor?
The actual
No,
prosecutor.
different prosecutions, right?
The actual prosecutor in my case was actually Janine Pirro.
Janine Pirro.
Yes, she was my first.
Jeff was
Yeah,
involved
exactly.
with
That's
her
my
too.
friend. Yes.
Anyway,
Janine, but then it went
Did
from
you
Janine
like
Pirro.
her?
I never actually knew her, but she was relentless, even in conversations. She
Right.
was relentless in the pursuit of getting a conviction.
Okay.
That's all she was
Yeah,
concerned about. She didn't want
that's
to
her
hear
thing. Yeah,
nothing
that's her thing.
at the time.
All right, now here's. I want to
Cheers.
mention something really quick
10 miles
because
in
you
about the
mentioned
DNA.
something to me at the end of our conversation where you feel, and I don't know, based on what I see here, rightfully so, that you were definitely framed, and you believe that maybe the cops went in there themselves,
Exactly.
killed this guy,
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
and they were looking for somebody to frame.
Yes.
And he just
Well,
got
no,
caught.
it couldn't be
He got
that
caught-
because the
wait,
girlfriend
Jimmy,
came
time
up.
out. Let's just get the. Don't say it couldn't be that.
the
Let's just get the
police-
whole story.
I'm not saying they couldn't have done it. I'm
It's a
saying, but the
possibility.
girlfriend.
The raise of the possibility is strong because in my trials, right, in their pursuit of the same officers that interrogated me were the same officers that investigated the case. Understand that fact. Nobody knew the crime scene better than them.
Correct.
Okay, so these are the same officers that's relentlessly repeating a story over to me that they have, what they have received and what they had delivered on the crime scene. So in the course of that, these officers are on the stand looking down at me, and this is on record, that they was actually smiling and giving gestures
Oh, I
and making
believe
facial
that.
marks and drinking water upon asking questions about how did you come about Mr. Days?
Well, the only thing that I meant by is that the girlfriend came out of nowhere.
The girlfriend came in play based upon an argument that we had. I was leaving her to go back to North Carolina. I only came to New York to visit my mom for about a month. I wasn't in New York before I got arrested a month and a half.
Okay.
And I met this girl. And of course, in meeting her, she learned of the story due to my mother.
Gotcha.
Because my mother was going to train her to become a nurse's aide.
Gotcha.
So she told her about these are the things that you have to watch out for when you work in people's homes or in nursing homes. So she told her about the incident that happened to her, that case that was unsolved. Okay, the woman withheld the evidence or the conversation from me. I was totally unaware. So in the course of me having an argument in the relationship, I told her I was leaving her. I was actually taking care of her and her 7 kids at the time.
Serious.
She returned, by me leaving, she told the police, you need to look
Of
into my
course,
boyfriend.
she had a meal
But she
ticket.
took a unfounded order of protection against me, which is unbeknownst to me at the time.
Wow.
Well,
It's easy to do.
certain
Yeah, that's-
things that just.
it wasn't even reported to
Yeah,
me.
you don't
It
know.
wasn't
You wouldn't
even-
know.
I didn't even know. I didn't know. I didn't get no paperwork. Nothing was hand delivered to me,
Fingerprints. They had fingerprints on the scene,
which was
and they
lost.
implied that it was Selwyn, but they didn't check that it was Selwyn's
Right.
fingerprints.
No, that's insane. That's wrong.
Absurd.
Right.
I'm just telling you, if you have fingerprints, they either match or they don't match.
Right.
Other than that, I don't want to hear a word.
But the print that was found on a broken piece of tape that was used to tie the individuals up, there was a thumbprint. It was a thumbprint broken off at the base of the tape from the borders. That print was actually, when it went to Quantico, Virginia to be tested, which is the FBI crime lab,
Right.
it was actually reported that the fingerprint didn't match. But during trial, when Quantico, Virginia sent it back up to New York, to the district attorney's department, all of a sudden it disappeared.
The one thing you said to me, we're going to make your family disappear.
Right.
Who said
that?
what?
Was the police. That was the core of my confession, as well as the core of me being incarcerated.
Was that
for
on
7.5
film?
years. That was in the interrogation.
Not
that was
on
the,
camera?
That was the unreported part of the investigation.
Okay.
6.5 hours was unrecorded, but you only got
Really?
45 minutes
When
of the
you're in an
recorded version of a
interrogation-
conversation.
Did they ever find the person? Like
No.
In Jeff's case?
No.
When you're in an interrogation for 6.5 hours, and at some point some cop turns to you and say, we're going to make your family disappear,
Right.
by default, anybody with an ounce of logic would think, wow, there's something going on.
Except
here,
for
right?
one thing.
What?
Cops are never going to admit they ever said it.
That's why I'm
No,
saying the
I
camera
understand
should
that.
be on.
I'm just saying what is. That's all. I'm saying.
course.
Right.
Tommy.
Well, they could, if they say that in and of itself, any judge would say the pressure you're under at that time. It's involuntary.
Right.
But the multiple judges in my case, I had approximately about 6 judges. It came to a point where the county they wouldn't even give me a judge that wasn't head on my case. I stayed in jail for an extra 2 years trying to receive a judge that would take my case. They didn't want to touch my case.
Because it was such toxicity, right?
Right.
You said nobody wants to go through that toxic
I
nature.
don't just see the lack of evidence.
This brilliant guy here at some point figured out and told his lawyer, and his lawyer says, come on, this can't be that crazy. The stenographer was not recording everything. She was only recording what I guess make a better case for the prosecution. Is this correct?
Exactly.
How
I was
crazy.
blurring out,
figure that out?
because I was blurring out things in the courtroom, right? And the stenographer was typing it. But when I got the transcripts, these things was missing in the transcripts. So I was basically in an argument with my lawyer numerous times, and they'll say, "You being psychotic, this can't be true." I said, "Look, you have to research it. You have to listen to what I'm saying to you." Okay, so in the course of them me badgering so much, they went and actually found and saw that what I was saying was true. They went into a thing called the hieroglyphics of the stenographer's box that they use to record.
Just so you understand, the stenographer's taking notes that are on paper, and it's
Right.
going by sounds, not by letters. So
Right.
the sounds that come up,
I
it's
didn't
easy to
know that.
report sounds.
Right.
So there's sounds. That's why when they type it out, it's not a regular typewriter. It's a
Yeah,
little
it's
thing
not-
that
it's
big.
not a
Right. He knows what I'm talking about.
So
Exactly.
how does it work with the sound?
It's a sound, like the TH sound is a sound.
So it's so all of that stuff was still in there, even though it
was
didn't
still there.
explain
But
that
that's
to me.
on the paper.
Right.
But they have a computer in
Thank
the
you.
box, and the computer
Thank
prints
you.
out the word
Thank you.
while the paper itself takes down the sounds.
Exactly.
She might have, when you do this at the end of the day and you have to give transcripts
she
out,
do it?
when you got to give transcripts out, the reporter goes over everything that's said, and she makes the final edit version through her computer.
Right.
And that's how it works.
And
She
it
could have
wasn't
edited it
recorded.
out.
So like Jimmy said, why?
Because it was a case based on
lies.
lies.
Systemic lies,
It's
we're
systemic.
So she was in
Right.
cahoots?
There's all in cahoots.
That's what
together.
it sounds like,
So
right?
here's,
I mean, that's
here's
what
the
it
other
is.
thing,
Exactly.
too. Your legal aid said that I'm conducting this case as if he's guilty. His legal
My
aid
legal
said
aid.
he's conducting the case as if he's guilty.
Never.
The judge asked, "How did you conduct Mr. Davis' case?" He picked up a glass of water, sipped on it, and put it down and said, "I conducted Mr. Davis' case out of a crime book."
So
And he should be doing time.
Right.
This is
under
now.
appeal.
This is
under appeal. We put him
64.
under appeal under ineffective assistance of counsel. Because the investigation that he said that he didn't do. He actually lied to the courts.
First of all, I applaud you for being so calm. Selwyn just got released 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's unbelievable, man.
And-
How long
and-
were you in for?
17 and a half years.
17 and a
God
half
bless you, man.
years for a crime that he never committed, knew it. We spoke about the prison life. About 13 years in, 13 years of that, Selwyn was an angry guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
And rightly
And
so.
Selwyn, tell me what happened. At some point, somebody came to you and said,
Being angry in the system for a crime I didn't commit is one of the worst things that you can ever fathom, because you're amongst criminals or people that have actually committed crimes, and you're telling your story that you didn't commit this, and everybody's laughing at you.
No one believes you,
Nobody
man.
believes you. So you can almost become like a target within the system.
Yep.
You know, but you're still trying to hold your composure. So in my anger, me being angry within the system and within what was going on with me, what has occurred was that a gentleman came to me and he said to me, "If you don't stop being angry and learn to humble yourself, you're never going to get yourself out of prison. Your thoughts and your mindset is always going to be clogged."
What did they give you? 25 to life,
they
I'm
gave
getting.
me 25 to life for one body, 25 to life for another body.
Consecutive. This is why
So I
I'm
served
amazed by
52
him.
years
You're
of
an
life.
amazing dude, my
he
friend.
is an amazing guy.
But let me tell you what's more amazing, and I've been there and I've been through it. Nothing.
No, you haven't.
No, I haven't. You're
You
right.
went to a country
But this
club
is what
and
I
you
do
served
know.
a
No,
year.
but this is what I do know.
Let's be honest.
No, this is what I do know about the spirit. What prison does, it takes your spirit.
It does.
It wipes your fucking
does.
spirit
Right,
away.
but you
It
don't have
doesn't-
first-hand experience
Listen,
because you were
listen,
playing
it
golf in
doesn't-
prison and
I
this guy
wasn't
was
playing
worried
golf.
about...
Dude, I wasn't playing golf. I don't care who you are. When you're in prison, dude, it belittles you. It takes everything that you fucking
It
know.
takes
It wipes
your
it away.
manhood and everything
Takes
away from you.
everything
Right,
that.
but let's
trust
not-
me.
let-
I
let's-
was in every
let me
state
finish.
prison in New York State.
For
I've been
him,
to Attica. I've been to Sing Sing. I was in.
How old were you when you went in?
I'm 53 years old now. I went in when I was 36.
And let's state
Sing
for the
Sing.
record, before he got wrongfully convicted, Selwyn did some fucked up things.
Yeah.
He was
But my case
drugs,
was
misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors, driving no
what did you
license,
have?
uninsured vehicle, trespassing,
Not murder.
no murder,
murder.
no assaults, no.
Well, that's a difference,
no
dude. There's a
guns.
whole different level of
That's a big
when
deal.
killing somebody,
Actually,
killing
when the
somebody.
judge-
you know, and this is what
When the judge released him and
They
exonerated him,
magnify
Right.
us, our teenage discrepancy.
But the final outcome of it was that the judge actually took my case, right? She accepted my case after all the other judges didn't want to deal with it any further, and other judges didn't want to take my case. They stayed away from it. She actually ruled in a way that she saw the logic in this case, and she said, "We're not going to go by hearsay. I need nothing but facts." Honor this gentleman for the facts.
And no facts.
She knew the case. There were no facts in the case.
Now just imagine this.
Everything was manufactured in my case, even
Right.
down to the versions of tapes that was used against me for phone conversations on the phone. They had tried to rewrite the phone conversations with me
And just a
my
couple-
brother and my family members, but there was nothing in the tapes that could say throughout the many years of me being incarcerated that was said that pointed me to this crime.
This thing went on for 5. They tried him 5 times, and he
I
appealed.
faced
He
10
appealed another.
panels.
He appealed 10 panels over the course of how long?
17 years.
Okay, so while he was in prison, this guy was brutally fighting to
Yeah.
save your life on some level, right?
Today, I know nothing about TV. I know nothing about your phone systems. I'm just barely learning how to understand a car. The supermarkets, I'm slowly starting
Amazing.
to understand it. I spent 99.5 of my years in a law library. That's all I know of the law.
Yeah.
Selwyn, can we tell him a story when you got in the car?
You can tell them.
I can only imagine.
we tell it
He
all.
gets in the car. Go ahead, so Selwyn, you tell the story.
I was in the car with my girlfriend at the time, and I was in a car with my stepdaughter and another lady friend in the back of the car, and we was all going out, and she asked me to drive
Selwyn's
the car.
driving, right.
I jumped into her car, and her car is a brand new car. It's an updated car. It's a 2015, and I was actually sitting behind the wheel while they was talking, trying to understand the dynamics of this vehicle. She said, "Honey, let's go." And I couldn't move the car. I stood there for like 2 minutes, and she was like, "Let's go." And I was like, I was so embarrassed and so hurt that I had to look at it and say, I don't know how to start the car up.
How did you feel the day they called you and said you were going to be released and a free man?
I was just going to say that same thing.
No, let him say it.
I didn't hear it.
How'd you find out?
How did you find out?
Only thing I heard was the jury came, but he said, we have a verdict. And the jury came back, and the judge read, the foreman read that we find Mr. Days murder in the first degree, not guilty, murder in second degree,
There you
not
go.
guilty, depraved indifference of human life, not guilty. I actually went tone deaf.
That's
I
it.
didn't
What
don't
did you
even
see?
believe it.
What was your
I-
emotion?
Disbelief.
It's so
Take
unimaginable.
your
You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being born. It's like being born again. You know, it's a feeling that
Mm-hmm.
it's so astonishing. You just can't. You just don't believe it's happening because having all the years that you lost trust in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Okay,
they let you
so
go
I
from
didn't
the
think I was
courthouse?
gonna let me go from the courthouse. They actually tapped me and almost had to pull me away from the table because I was actually went deaf in the courtroom.
But when you got released itself, did you even know that you didn't have to go back to the jail?
When they pulled me to the back,
Right.
I actually went to the left side
Right.
and started to walk back to the bullpens. And the cop said, no.
Too good
What
to
He
cut you
said,
loose?
walk this way.
That is
and I was like, what are you
unbelievable,
talking about?
Unbelievable.
No idea.
How am I killing you? That's a great answer.
All right,
I think you
so
might
lightning
get
in a
$20 when
bottle.
that happened to get back
And
to
they
the
took me
jail.
out the
I
back
think
door.
I'm telling you, man.
Great.
So Selwyn, you know, I think you do a great job. I mean, I don't know what goes on personally. I mean, we spoke a little bit about. I mean, you know, Selwyn has to basically he can't sleep,
No,
and sleep is an essential part of life.
Exactly.
He gets about 2-3 hours of sleep every night. Not only that, but when he's not sleeping,
I'm on the side of the bed looking out the window as if I'm looking out the bars of a cell.
and the
Yeah.
other thing is he calls his girlfriend in the middle of the night, 4 in the morning, because he wants to talk to somebody. But naturally, I mean, all people sleep at 4 in the morning.
What time was breakfast in jail? 6?
It's 5 o'clock in the
5
morning.
o'clock in the morning, breakfast.
What did we learn here today?
I feel like I'm in class.
The justice
Everything.
system.
We learned that Jimmy's a part-time racist.
No, I'm not a racist. Don't get that shit out of your brain.
We learned that Mitch has been brutally honest. I think you've been very honest.
think
You
so,
answered
too.
the right? I mean,
No, he
you-
won't.
And Mitch, you could have been my lawyer, you hear me? I would have took you on. Okay.
I enjoy defending people. I do. I enjoy it. I actually get along with most of my clients, and I like that I do. And some of them, it bothers me that I get along with them really well, because if they get convicted, it bugs me.
That's what my attorney said.
But I have to say, I give a great thanks to the Paul Rice, Rifkin, and Walton and Garrison team, as well as Duran, Jeanette, and McCreary, and EXI that has actually presented my case and believed in me. And I welcome you all throughout history, throughout my duration of life. I thank you for all that you did. They have gotten me to the point where I'm at now. They work with me, and we are family.
You
Good
have
for
any?
That's
You
what
have? Does he? Are you suing? Is there any money coming?
Of course he's
Yes,
suing. What do you
Mike.
think? He's going to spend 17
but-
years of his life without
yeah.
suing?
No. I'm just saying. I want to make
There's a criminal lawsuit against the county, and
That's
there's
what I
also
wanna
a
know.
civil
And for the
suit.
record,
Wait,
may,
wait,
may
there's
we
a
state
criminal?
right off the bat that you are not settling.
No, I'm not.
You're
selling.
not settling. So who's ever
Just like the deal
watching,
they offered me in
Let's-
my incarceration, I'm not taking no deals.
Have you been offered money already?
Yes, I have. In my incarceration, I have
so let's mention one of the most important things. They offered you,
$9 million.
but you can't write a book and you can't do a movie. What does that tell you? Seems to me logically is that they know they knew
Of course they know that.
They
I'm
know
not
they
arguing
fucked
that
up, so
point.
they want to pay him to keep his mouth
I
shut.
got that.
Okay,
I
so
got
what-
that.
so
That's
what
not
else is there?
That was in 2007.
All right, so what else do you need me to explain to you?
My point is, they kept him in for another 10 years.
Yes,
No,
because he turned
I
him
the
down. He
deal
said
down.
no.
I said no. In a closed room on the second floor in the county building, they sat with me and they made these deals with me. And I opted not to take the deal.
I take my hat off to you. That's a lot of integrity coming from you, that considering you were in prison and you still had the wherewithal, the capacity in you to say no. And when he said no, they
It hurt.
came back a
Believe
second
me, it
time
hurt.
and they upped the ante and they offered him $9 million.
Right.
And you walked that day.
I would have walked the next
See,
morning.
that's what I'm... In other words, you're staying in prison.
But I would
okay?
have still had a felony. That
So
was
you
part
would
of
have kept the felony
Yeah,
charge.
he's going to
Both
plead,
felons
take
been
the
dropped.
7 years. He still has a plea. There's a
Right.
felony conviction.
I get a felony conviction.
So basically, Jimmy, do you have anything to add to this?
Just Selwyn freaking amazes me, dude. I mean, all in all, Selwyn
Thank you.
amazes me. You're a good man, dude.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry for
I
what
get you.
happened to you. I mean, what can you say?
Mitch?
I'm giving my time to Bosch.
Mitch?
No, man. I'm done. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to get cut off.
He's very upset at me,
What's
Mitch.
that say? I'm not. I'm thrilled that he's out of jail and everything
Yeah.
turned his way. That's all.
Thank you.
Selwyn?
I'm just happy to be home.
And we're happy
you
to
go.
have you. We're happy to have you.
And thank you for having me here.
All I ask of you is for you to prove these words are true. You better lunch to show consideration. All I ask of you is to listen to my point of view. You better lunch to show consideration. You should have learned to show consideration.